someone might...
This meeting is being recorded.
Yeah, in case someone has a question or has wanted to ask something about your organization or your school, then they can be able to reach out to you afterwards. Yeah, and you can also share your your profile if it's a Twitter profile or LinkedIn profile, then maybe people can connect through the event. So yeah, as I'll just get into it. So yeah, so the event today is Open Data Day, Nairobi. It's just because if the event was to happen in person, we'd have met in Nairobi. And what Open Data Day is that it's an annual celebration of open data. For the day today, since there are so many different time zones, there are actually over 200 events that are happening around the world. And these are events that are organized by communities, by organizations, by individuals to share and celebrate more about open data, what it is, why it's important and how different people are using open data for their work or even for research and such things. And actually in Kenya, this is not the first time we are celebrating open data in Nairobi. We have celebrated Open Data Day for 2 years in the past, so in 2020 and in 2019, and both events were in person or rather physical events. So we actually met and had the events. And in this case, I'm talking about events that have been organized in the past by YouthMappers. Yeah, so, and for both events, we actually had them or held them at the University of Nairobi. So we basically met and had a number of presentations or workshops and such things. For the one in 2020, we sort of partnered with Code for Africa, which is an awesome community and an organization in Kenya and in Africa. So we had presentations on open data and data journalism and how we can use data for good. And they also got a chance to share with us about on some of their projects that they're doing across the continent. Then for our first one in 2019, it also happened at the University of Nairobi. For this, we had a joint event with MAP Kibera Trust and IFRC, the International Federation of Red Cross Societies. So the event was focused on OpenStreetMap and how both organizations are using OpenStreetMap in different ways. Yeah, so we're sort of making it a culture to have this event every year, focusing on different aspects of open data and specifically open geospatial data. So if you might be wondering then, like, what's the whole fuss about Open Data Day and why it's important to recognize the day and meet and actually discuss ways that we can further foster the movement, is that I think most of us or all of us are familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, as mostly people define them as the world's checklist. So I'm sure for those of us who are working, or even for those of us who are in school, through the work that we do or through the projects that we engage in, we are in one way or another working towards achieving one or multiple sustainable development goals. And it's important for the goals to be tracked and to be achieved so that we can achieve global progress. And over the years, it has been seen, and even when the SDGs were being implemented for the first time a couple of years ago, what was seen is that there was a great need for data to be used, and not just data to be used for the sake of using, for data to be used for good, so that it's people are making decisions that are informed basing on things that have happened, and when decisions are being made, we can be able to say and share that we have made decision X because of X, Y, and Z. And you can only do this if you have data. So for us to be able to achieve the SDGs, there's a huge need for data. And even further, because all of us are interested in mapping or are working in the GIS space, we also know that there's a great need for geospatial data and mapping to be used even as you're creating these sustainable solutions. And up to this point, I've just shared about SDGs and data. Then how does open data come in? To acquire data, it can be very expensive, especially for groups of people such as governments in third world countries where there's minimal funding. It can be expensive to start collecting data fresh if there's no data. So that's how open data comes in. It comes in to sort of solve the issue of accessibility. Yeah, so that's why open data is important, especially for governments and organizations that are not able to acquire data regularly. And also, even if you think about things like the census that happen after a couple of years, you can usually see how expensive those are. So that's why it's also very important, even as people are collecting data, there's a way that some form of this data is made open. And another important thing about open data is that with more open data, there's a chance for having more open research and more open innovation happening. Because for most of us who are here, looking at the attendance list, I saw that most of us are students. When we're doing our projects, or even when you get to the final year and we have to carry out projects covering different topics, I'm sure all of us have experienced this where we needed specific data and we had to go to a government office and we had to go round and round looking for data, wasting a lot of time and resources. At times at the end of the day, you do not get this data. So you might not even end up doing that research project, you might have to change it and all that. And yeah, basically, I think the main thing that open data solves is the inaccessibility of data and having available data that you can use on the go. So yeah, that's why I think from my end, I think that's why data is important and specifically why open data is important. And in case you're not familiar with what open data is, just from the word open, it's data that's freely available, it's free to access, it's free to use for any purpose whatsoever, including commercial purposes. So when for example, one of us goes to a government office and you get data, and you're given letters sort of restricting what you can use this data for, that is not open data. It's data that you got access to, but it's not, in reality, it's not open data. Open data is also data that you can republish and redistribute and reshare to your network. That's why even when you look at open data portals like HDX, you'll find out that this is data that is also available in other open data portals. So yeah, the main thing to note about open data is that there are no restrictions. So you should be able to access it. It should be readily available. You should be able to use it freely for any purpose whatsoever. You should also be able to republish it, redistribute it, reshare it, and also reuse it for any purpose other than the original reason why that data was collected and shared in the first place. So yeah, the main thing about open data is that there are absolutely no restrictions for your use. And one other thing to know about open data and sort of things that open data are supposed to adhere to. So maybe this is more important to organizations who publish data in general, is that it's also advisable that data should open data should adhere to the fair data principles. So, and it's fair in this case is an abbreviation for findability, accessibility, interoperability, and usability. And it's just, if you look into it, you'll find out more about, it's more on standards, basically how open data should look like or how fair data should look like. For example, on findability, it means that you should be able to access it on an online platform. So just the example that I was using initially, when I need data and I have to say I need data on from Kengen, I do not have to leave Nairobi and go all the way to I don't know if it's in Nakuru or before Nakuru, or Olkaria to access this data. For open data to adhere to fair data principles, it should be published online so that anyone, anywhere can access it for free. In terms of interoperability, it should be machine readable. So a good example is census data. If you are in a number of the Kenyan geospatial communities, you'll always see people asking for, does anyone have shapefiles for census data? And that's because if you go to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics website, who are mandated to carry out the census operation and sort of work on the data and share the data, it's usually shared in PDFs, which can be limiting in a way. So that means if a data analyst or a GIS person, I have to first extract this data from a PDF format, maybe to an Excel sheet. Yes, there are tools to do that, but it can be a bit difficult and sketchy and complex in a way. And also, it also brings in a chance for you to introduce errors into the data. So, and then after doing that, then I have to sort of merge the table, if it's in a CSV, to my own shapefile of counties or constituencies and all these administrative levels. So, so yes, in as much as data on census in Kenya is shared openly, it does not follow the fair data principles, just because of what someone has to do to be able to finally use this data and analyze this data for their own purpose. Yeah, so those are the main bits about open data in a nutshell. And also, I guess I've sort of explained fair data principles, and which, when you're thinking about the challenges of open data, it's usually easier to explain them using the fair data principles, because you're able to see the limitations of what's already available. Yeah, so for today's event, we had planned to have a number of speakers to share with us about either the platforms that they have or they are developing or they have recently launched that are dependent on open data and are also promoting the use and creation of open data. So at this point, I'll leave it to our moderator, Godwin, to take it over from here and introduce the remaining speakers and sessions as we continue, and also more information about the event and the flow of things.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura, for the brief introduction of our event today. As you have heard, my name is Godwin Mureithi. I'm a youth mapper at the Technical University of Kenya, and I'm pursuing geoinformatics. So to give just a brief overview of our event today, the activities that we are going to have in the next few hours, we'll have the first presentation is about African Geoportal, that is from ISRI. Then we will have Digital Africa as our second presentation. Then the third one will be from a speaker from Regional Center. And then we'll go to Introduction to OSM. And then finally we'll have a mapathon. So Laura, you can go to the next slide. We'll be starting with our first presentation, Africa Geoportal. Our speakers are from East Africa. Just a brief introduction. We have Lorraine Inets. She has a master's in geology, and she has worked for over 24 years applying GIS in the petroleum industry, and she joined ISRI around 11 years ago. And she is passionate about mapping and GIS and these Cairo steps. Then the next speaker who they are collaborating with Lorraine is Pauline Okeyo, who also works at ISRI. She's a solutions engineer. And they will be presenting about Geoportal and development and the kind of things that it involves in Geoportal Africa, the kind of data you can get there, and how it can benefit us. So thank you very much. You are welcome to present to us.
Right, good morning. Thank you, Godwin. I couldn't unmute myself. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much, Laura and Godwin, for inviting us to speak today. Let me just start with sharing my screen and see if I can get my dog to be quiet. Sorry, Godwin, can you allow me to share my screen?
Yes, just a minute.
Sure. And while we're waiting, happy Open Data Day, everybody on the call. It's good to see so many of you joining this morning. Okay. Right, good morning. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. I'm just gonna switch off my video just to save some bandwidth here. Right, so thanks again. Thanks for having us this morning, and happy Open Day today, everybody. I'll give a quick introduction about what Africa Geoportal is, and then I'll hand over to my colleague Pauline, who will give you a live demonstration of what Africa Geoportal is. We both feel that Africa Geoportal will provide you for another avenue of helping you with the great work that you're already doing. And I hope this will really spark your interest. But first of all, I wanted to highlight the importance of technology and innovation in Africa. Africa is having a very rapid growth in internet penetration, with about 20% increase of internet users per year, and an estimated 600 million people by 2025 who will have access to mobile internet. And even better is that now the African leaders and businesses are actually recognizing the role of ICT and GIS, and how this can really benefit not only government, but also businesses, entrepreneurship, and local communities as a whole. So with this in mind, ESRI started supporting an open data initiative called Africa Geoportal. And Africa Geoportal really is a portal that allows you that provides you with geospatial tools, learn lessons, and data specifically for Africa. And really what it allows you to do is to collaborate across, not just between yourselves, but across regions and across the entire continent, and help with providing data, utilizing data for yourselves or for others to use in their work. In fact, our founder and owner of the company, Jack Dangerman, says this far more elegantly than I do. We are deeply committed to supporting innovation in Africa, helping users discover, explore, and understand the vast information available to them through the power of maps. And that's really what we're trying to do with Africa Geoportal. It is what we call a one-stop shop of a portal for geographic content and comprehensive web GIS tools. And it's open, it's free for single users, people who are residing or supporting efforts or working in Africa. So really to emphasize, this is a free open data portal where you can create your account, or you can link your existing social media account, like Apple account or Google or Facebook account, to Africa Geoportal and start mapping. Africa Geoportal really has 4 key areas to explore. First of all, it's not just an open data platform where you can download data, but you can actually directly work with the data. We provide a range of geospatial tools that can help you with mapping and analysis. And for those of you who are familiar with ArcGIS Online, that's actually the functionality that you have as a user of Africa GeoPortal, where all the tools that are available in ArcGIS Online are available on Africa GeoPortal for you to use. It also includes field applications for collecting of your own data. The second capability is really that it provides a vast library of learning resources where you can create your own learning plans. And it doesn't matter whether you're new to GIS or whether you're an expert, there's something there for everybody to get started or to advance your knowledge. Or you can even utilize the learning resources to sign up and engage through a mentor program if you're interested in helping others get started. You will find user success stories on Africa GeoPortals that can help you get inspired and also to help encourage others. So by all means, we always encourage people to share their stories. And lastly, through the Africa Living Atlas, you have access to an authoritative collection of Africa geospatial data. The data in Africa Living Atlas comes from a wide range of contributors. It includes Esri curated data that we make freely accessible, but it also consists of large data sets of analysis ready data, including base maps, imagery, demographics, weather data, environmental data. And these data sets come from a number of different sources as well. So this includes organizations like NASA, FAO, Digital Earth Africa, RCMRD, OpenStreetMap also as an example. And on top of that, we have a number of countries that we started engaging with to make their geospatial open data accessible through Africa GeoPortal. And of course, you as your own user can contribute to this platform as well. And that, of course, is something we highly encourage to make it more valuable for everybody. Here's a couple of screenshots of examples of the pages, the Africa GeoPortal pages that RCMRD has set up and Digital Earth Africa. So within Africa GeoPortal, you can either search for data specifically from RCMRD or from Digital Earth Africa by going through their pages, or you can search the entire platform and find information. So to support Africa GeoPortal, we are committed to very closely working with the community to keep the platform running as long as it is needed and used. We want to support project data so it continues to be accessible. So we provide, a storage area basically for your data where you can utilize it and share it with others. And really what we're trying to do is become be a portal of portals, referencing or hosting geospatial data regardless of the source. So whether that data is residing locally on a server in Kenya or Mauritania or anywhere else across the continent, if we can pull that data into Africa GeoPortal to be shared and utilized, that's what we're trying to aim for. And of course, we're also promoting the Africa GeoPortal to gain further contributions from other countries, other regional organizations, as well as other Esri initiatives by working with statistical agencies, health agencies, etc., for them to also encourage them to share their data openly. So with that short introduction, I would like to thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to address such a wonderful crowd of mappers this morning. You are truly making a difference by not only creating the maps for the world, but also by creating the next generation of mappers for the world. And that is truly an honorable task. And thank you for everything that you do there. Lastly, I wanted to keep you with this last slide to get information about Africa GeoPortal or follow us on Twitter, and really to keep mapping, keep doing what you're doing and helping move the world forward with the work that you do. So with that, I would like to hand over to my colleague Pauline, who will actually now show you a live demonstration of Africa GeoPortal. And while during this presentation, if you have any questions, there's some time for questions after, I believe, but if not, otherwise pop them in the chat and we can always get back to you later with the answers. So with that, I would like to stop sharing and hand over to Pauline.
Thank you, Lorianne. Hi, everyone. Happy Open Data Day 2021. very happy to actually get to celebrate this day with you and share how, as Esri, we are trying to support those principles that Laura had mentioned in terms of being able to discover data, access the data, explore it, and also collaborate in adding to the data that's available across Africa, which I believe most of you are already contributing through the work you're doing with OpenStreetMap. So I'll just share my screen. And turn off my video just to save on bandwidth. So again, as Lorraine has mentioned on our introduction, the main purpose of Africa GeoPortal is just to support organizations, to support people interested in sustainable development in Africa to be able to access content that has been contributed by authoritative sources across the continent, as well as content that has been contributed again by individuals who are interested in just making available data that's useful. So to access the portal, you just easily go to that URL, or you can just quickly search for Africa GeoPortal on any of your browsers and you'll be able to access it. So once you get there, from the homepage, you are able to just see some of the content we have or some of the collaborators we have. And to make it easier for you to navigate, we recommend that you sign in. And for you to be able to sign in, you basically need to sign up. So just to have that ability to sign up, you'll have a sign up link over here. And how it looks like for you to sign up is just you need to put in very minimal information, and you also have the option of signing up using your social media accounts. So once you signed up and signed in, you'll be able to see some of the, or to be able to see some of the content we have available and then use it on some of the tools we have. But still, without signing in, you're able to access this data. So some of the collaborating agencies and organizations, national agencies and development partners across Africa we've been working with, we've highlighted some of them here, and definitely it's good to see that some of our key collaborators are also part of this session. So just exploring one of the collaborators we have, that is RCMRD. They have their own site within Africa GeoPortal, and from this place or from this location, you're able to just see some of the data sets they have. So for you to be able to navigate it here, we have made it easy for you to be able to search for data, apply filters to access this data, and so on. So you can see once you get to the exploratory side, you're able to see the data sets that are available. You can see for RCMRD, the GeoPortal, they have about 190 data sets that they made available. And also, if you want to just look specifically at apps and maps, that is also possible because they've also made this available for use within their GeoPortal. From there, you're able to apply filters such as getting data by content type, identifying dates, if you'd like data for a specific period, and so on, as well as tags that they have applied on the data. So tags actually make it easier for you to discover data, so that instead of having to search for data and going through different data sets, you can just quickly use tags that have been applied on the data to filter the display and get the data that you'd like to use. And also, there's the aspect of licensing, whereby according to common licensing or accessibility standards such as Creative Commons, some of these have been applied just to guide the user on what they're able to do once they're able to access the data. So for example, here, if I search for data that is particular to Kenya, you can see it just opens for me the options. I can say I have about 39 results. And for example, if I look at Kenya mangrove, it loads the data explorer side of the GeoPortal. From this point, I can see what attributes are actually part of this data. I can look at the data itself, which are just looking at the table and what is actually captured in the table. And they also have an API explorer. And as someone who may need to actually access this data after exploring it, I have the options of downloading it in various formats. So all of this has been enabled within Africa GeoPortal, and the aspect of interoperability, it's possible to actually access this data in various user-friendly formats. And you can also access it in various APIs, which just allows you, API formats, which just allows you to pull in this data for use without having to download it, so that in case there's any update, you're able to actually access the same data set. So another collaborator, which most of you are already familiar and working with, is OpenStreetMap, whereby we have been working with OpenStreetMap to have most of the data, or all of the data that has been contributed by users, to actually have it available within Africa GeoPortal. So as you can see, we have filtered this data to be particular for Africa, and we're still working together to filter this by country, so that if someone is trying to access this data, they'll just be able to filter the display by specific African countries and so on. And we have a preview map, which can just allow people to see the data that's available. And then if you'd like to contribute to what is within the OpenStreetMap, you can be able to do that from the OpenStreetMap preview map, which I'll just go to. And yeah, we just make it easier for you to contribute to that. So if you come, for example, to, this is just the preview map, and it's just been opened within one of our map viewers. And from there, you can see, if I click on a particular data set, I can see that it's a building, see the ID, and I can easily go to OpenStreetMap to be able to edit this feature and so on. So we've made it easier for people to easily navigate from one side to another to be able to collaborate in enriching the data sets or the content we have across Africa. Next, another strong collaborator we have is Digital Art Africa, where their core interest is to support growth and development in Africa by providing content or data that's, or art observation data that can support a number of activities. Digital Art Africa has been around for a short time, but some of the key achievements they've had in this short time have really transformed how we're actually using data to make decisions, or just to improve the livelihoods of people across Africa. So the good thing with the collaboration with Digital Art Africa is that we have gone beyond just providing data, because they've done a good job at that, and we've worked with them to provide tools to make it easier to interact with this data. So if you come to their page, you're able to see some of the tools that we've actually worked on together, whereby Digital Art provided the content, and we've used some of the common tools available within our platform or within our system to be able to interact with this data. So an example is this interactive vegetation change mapping application. And the purpose of this application is just to help people to understand what has been the change in terms of land cover over a given period within a given area and so on. So the tool is quite easy to use. As you can see, once you launch it, you have the ability to just be able to query for displays for a given time and so on. Because you can see, like for the default, I'm looking at April 2013 and December 2013. And it's just something like some of the tools we've used, they just quickly do an analysis to check where have we had a decrease in vegetation change and an increase in vegetation change and so on. So if I just to use this to look at the same period still in 2017, that is April and 2013 and 2017, you can see the display response is quite fast, and you're able to see that that change over time, whereby if we look at the same time, possibly it could have been a drought or a particular activity was taking place to make it look like there was a significant change in terms of vegetation cover over this particular place. So those are some of the organizations we're collaborating with to provide tools and data, or tools and content for use across Africa. Other organizations that are using our technology and we've made it easier to access their data within the portal is Africa GeoPortal, is Kenya Open Data. And for Kenya Open Data is an initiative under ICT Authority of Kenya, and they've just used the same platform or our technology to be able to disseminate content on Kenya to the world, basically. So they've enabled people to easily discover data based on data categories. And from there, once they click on a category, they can go to explore the data sets and finally be able to access it in various formats that I previously shown. So if I'd like, for example, to look at all the data sets, you'll see that this just generally launches in the same way that we had as what we have on Africa Geoportal. And from there, I'm able to see the data sets that are available, as well as apps and maps that have been published. So an example is if we look at this data set by Matthew from ICT Authority, if I just click on that, again on exploration, I'm able to see the web map that Matthew has been able to publish, just see that data. And from here, I can just explore it. I can already start interacting with the data just to be able to explore what is available and so on. And I can easily just move back into Africa Geoportal to be able to look at what is the metadata about this particular web map that was published by Matthew. You can see it just tells us that these are just some of the innovation hubs that have been set by within the country and so on. Again, another collaborator, one of our strong champions in terms of geospatial technologies is Kenyatta University, whereby they have their own site and still you can access their data within Africa Geoportal. So if you come to their gallery, you're able to see some of the maps that they have published and they've made them to be publicly accessible. Just some interesting information that they would love for people to make use of and just to be aware on what is going on in KU. So an example is if we look at the KU base map, they've actually mapped all the resources within the campus and you're able to see, have a view of the campus or a view of the university, of the main campus of the university, whereby I'll just try to zoom out a bit. You can see the different zones or how they've zoned the university and different layers are just loading. You're able to see some of the buildings that they have within the university and so on. So again, we have provided not only through our main portal, providing access to data and so on, but we're also supporting other organizations to be able to do this, to be able to make sure that data can be discovered, can be accessible, and can actually be explored by different people and so on. Still on the Geoportal, we have fused tools and learning resources to make it easier for people to make use of what's available there. So with the learning resources, we have some links, some useful links from the Geoportal, but you can easily come to one of the links, which is just a learning hub where you can access freely available courses that ideally don't need much from you other than having signed up to Africa Geoportal. So you can explore some of these courses based on the level of expertise you have or the kind of experience you'd like to have. So we've made courses available for people who are new to GIS, people who are very comfortable with GIS, people who are interested in data science and they just want to incorporate GIS into that, and other kinds of teaching capabilities or learning capabilities and so on. So you're able to look at a particular capability, that is if you'd like to have lessons regarding field maps, lessons on imagery and remote sensing and so on. You're also able to still filter some of the lessons available based on the experience. So if I just look at what is available for data science, it will just bring for me results courses that, or lessons that are very particular to data science. So you can see for those who have come across Jupyter notebooks, we have that component under ArcGIS notebooks where you're able to apply machine learning to do some of the analysis that is available. You can see the courses are free. Some of them are about an hour long, and if you just view the card, you're able to get information about that. We also have additional courses or lessons, as well as lesson parts that you could follow just to achieve a particular capability based on a main capability area and so on. So all of these are actually available from Africa Geoportal. So once you sign up and you explore the data, you identify the data sets you'd like to use, you'll come to the platform side or the tool side of Africa Geoportal. And from there, you're able to work with the content that you have, as well as content that you've identified from other places. You can work within groups or create your own groups that can allow you to collaborate with other people. You can incorporate machine learning or advanced data analytics. We allow you to work with 3D data, and definitely one of our core tools is the map viewer, which we'll just be exploring right now. So when you come to the map viewer, it's just a canvas that allows you to interact with data, visualize it, then create outputs out of it. So from there, I'd just like to give an example on how you can make use of this. For example, here I already have data on primary schools within Nakuru County, which has been added definitely from some of the authoritative publishers we have or contributors we have on Africa Geoportal. So you can see for me I can be able to just view the pop-up just to get details about the different schools we have in Nakuru County. And you can see that it just captures regular information or necessary information that will be of use. So from there, if I'd like to visualize this based on different parameters, I can just easily be able to change how this displays. And instead of just using, I can use attributes such as who is the sponsor, or the school belongs to who exactly. So I can use sponsor information just to automatically change the display or how my data is being visualized. And you can see with smart mapping capabilities we have within Africa Geoportal, you're able to just visualize this data based on different categories. I can also choose to display by other categories, and again, it's going to automatically change the display on my map. I'm also able to apply filters on my data, and that's one of the things I was able to do, to filter the Kenya national data set to just display what is there for Nakuru. And I can also use clusters. And the good thing about clusters is that if you have a lot of data and you just want to quickly visualize something and communicate something such as where do we have a high concentration of features and so on, I can just enable clusters, and that will allow me to visualize my data based on that. And again, one of the great things that we have are just mapping capabilities or visualization capabilities is that you can apply visibility range, or the visible range at which this data can be displayed, whereby if I only want the data to be displayed at a particular scale, I can just use that to display my data. So just looking at the Kenya schools, I myself have been able to come across some data sets from ICT Authority and the initiative they have for digital learning program, whereby they're enabling schools to be able to train in ICT or to use IT to do some of their teaching. And through that, they've been able to deploy some devices to different schools. So these devices could be for learners as well as for teachers. And I just have this summary for Nakuru County, which is in CSV format, but I'd like to have this visualized within Africa Geoportal. So one of the ways that I can add my CSV is if I come to my content under Africa Geoportal, I can just be able to add an item. And from there, I can choose my file. In this case, I have the Nakuru GLP. And from there, I'm able to just add a title. I'm able to add tags, which will make my data discoverable or easy for people to be able to search and access it. Then I just publish it to make it in a format that could easily be used within my map viewer. And from there, I'm able to just decide if I want to use the location information within the layer, or I just want to publish it as a table because I know I may link it with another data set and so on. So that's just one of the ways you can add your own data, either CSV or shape files that are zipped and so on. So just looking at that, I'll just search for my layer within my map viewer. And from there, I can search for my own content. Definitely, I have something, and I have my published data set, which I published earlier on my table. And once that has been added, I can use some of the tools we have available to actually link what is in my table or my CSV to my primary schools. And to do that, I can use some of the analysis tools we have within the map viewer and the Africa Geoportal to be able to do that. So I can use I can use I can use my summarized data field tools to be able to link this data. And to do that, just before I use the tool, the good thing is that we have provided descriptions to just enable you to know how to use some of these tools or to give you that knowledge. So beyond that, I can just choose the way that I'd like for this data to be linked. In this case, I'm using a way that is not highly recommended, but it's just one of the ways I'm using to link this data. So I'm going to use the name of the schools to link this data. But at the time, you can use some of the key identifiers for the schools and so on to be able to just display this data. So I'm just updating my parameters. Then I'll just have my results as that. I can look at what the credit consumption. So by credit consumption, we mean that for any analysis we do online, because it's something that's being done online, you may consume some units to be able to do this. And those units, we're just calling them credits. So once I run my analysis based on the parameters I've identified, I'll be able to just enrich my primary schools layer with information about the number of devices that have been installed, or some number of devices that have been deployed within some of these schools within Nakuru County and so on. So it should just take a few more seconds to do that. And once that is finished and uploaded, we can just proceed to do some quick visualization on this data and so on. So you can see based on the schools that were there, I believe what I had for Nakuru County to about 900 schools, and the one where the devices were deployed and matched, it's about, maybe we can just check on the table here. It's about 109 which have actually matched and so on. So that just shows us some of the schools that have actually received the devices and so on. And if I just explore the pop-up and scroll down to the added information, I can see that, like, for example, Kuresoi, I think this is Kuresoi. Yeah, it's Taragoni Primary School. You can see it received a total of 27 devices and so on. And from that point, if this is something that I'd like to share with someone, I can easily save my web map, where I'll just say Nakuru then I can just add tags, give a proper description beyond what is there, then have this saved on my particular folder within Africa GeoPortal. So once that is saved, I'm also able to share it with other people. So one of the ways I can share it is with everyone, the general public, within Africa GeoPortal or members of the groups I have. But I can also share this link for people to be able to use it. Let's say if I made it public, for instance, or I can create a web application, which just makes it easier for people to interact with what I've created, basically in an easy to use format. So that's just basically some of the things you can do within Africa GeoPortal. You're able to discover data, access it, be able to explore it, and also just contribute to the data sets within that. And beyond that, you're able to create your own outputs, which people can use in various formats. So thank you. I think we still have a few more minutes within our sessions. If there are any questions, I think we can address them now, myself and Lorian. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Pauline. Guys, if you have any question, you can post it in the chat. There was one, but it was directed to Digital Earth Africa, and I can see Kenneth, Dr. Kenneth has responded to it. So if there's any other question, you can just post on the chat, and then Pauline or Lauren will respond to. Yeah.
Hi, sorry, Godwin. The question needs to come in the chat, right? Because people cannot unmute themselves. So please just post them in the chat.
Yeah. So just one question from us, because most of our attendees today are students, any career advice you'd like to give them, because they are becoming professionals and they need to know, be one or two things.
I think they've made a fantastic choice already in life by choosing, well, ICT, GIS, mapping. Spatial is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more people that understand spatial, the more you become valuable, because you understand how to utilize spatial in real world situations. And, you know, you have a great career ahead. So I think you've already done a very good choice there by choosing a spatial career, so to speak. in any formal way. I think the other area is data science. I think is something that's becoming more and more relevant, big data analytics. I think you guys have a fantastic career opportunities going forward. I really do. Pauline, do you have any thoughts on that as well?
Definitely. Again, I agree with the fact that choosing a career in just spatial science, or just choosing to use tools such as what we have and applying data analytics in some of the work you're doing, it's a very useful tool that will come in handy depending on, I think, in whichever field that you choose to go into and so on. I mean, we have seen people applying some of these tools and analytics when it came to trying to analyze the impact of COVID-19 most of last year and early this year. Still, they're using the same tools to determine how to best go about doing the vaccination process and so on. We have seen also this being used in conservation. We have seen this being used in various industries and so on. So these are useful tools, and we hope that you'll all make use of them, because we have given you a platform that gives you tools, that gives you access to learning resources that you could take advantage of to build your skills, your skills in applying technology and data in some of your analysis. So yeah, it's a great start that you're here on this day, and you're just interacting with everyone and seeing how data and analysis tools can actually help you in some of the work you intend to do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a question from Mary. She's asking, how do you ensure that all the data from various communities are consistent?
Question. Oh, Pauline, you want to take that one? Go for it.
You could start, and then if there's anything I can just add. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so there's a couple of different data sources that feed Africa GeoPortal. And as Pauline showed, there is you can see who published the data. So there is Esri curated data and Esri managed data, for which we know that the data is from an authoritative source. The data that you will find on the regional and country pages, again, is from those entities. So those are data sources that they publish, that they manage, that they see as the authoritative data on that topic or for that country. Now, when it comes to community data, it really is open to everybody. Anybody here on this forum, if you have an account on our Africa GeoPortal, you can actually publish data, you can share that data. Obviously, you can label it, you can attribute it to say this is coming from this source or that source. But at the end of the day, that is not something that is managed. It's managed by the community, as in you contribute, you accredit your data. And based on that, people need to make a decision whether they trust this data or not.
Okay, thank you very much. There's another question from Engineer Darius asking, which tools are used for data analysis?
Yeah, I can answer that. So we just use some of the main analysis principles that we have revolving around spatial data. So we have made those common tools available here, whereby we are saying when it comes to do things like proximity analysis, some of the things that people would like to have answered are just to know what falls within a given region, what's the nearest facility, and how do you use some of these analytics to actually plan for activities such as routes for delivery of things and so on. So those are just some of the common analysis that we expect people to actually do when it comes to spatial data and so on. That is already embedded. Another thing or other tools that are available are within our Living Atlas. Maybe I can just try to access it from here, where we have people who have created analytics or analysis tools just to and made them publicly available. So these are people from our community. Some of them are from us, and some of them are just from the contributors or some of the collaborators we have within within our ecosystem globally. So we have those tools that probably there's another best way to search for it. But yeah, if you're able to just to go to the Living Atlas, as I said, this is just our core area for Esri authoritative content. You're able to just get some of the tools that people have been able to, or some of the analysis, analytics tools that people have been able to publish and so on, and we've just made it available there. And they've also, most of them have also, in the metadata, the description, they've explained some of the algorithms behind some of their tools, because I know most of you may have that concern of, okay, I'd like to do the analysis, but I don't know what are some of the components or parameters I need to have in place. All of that has been provided in the metadata of the tools that are there. Yeah. Gordon, it seems you're on mute.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pauline and Lauren. I can see there's one more question. Is it free for an organization to create an instance of the platform, similarly to Kenya National Bureau of Statistics?
If this organization is an entity who wants to share open data on the Africa Geo portal, then we would absolutely love to talk to them. So please drop us an email and we can connect and we can take the conversation further.
Okay, thank you very much, Lauren and Pauline. We appreciate for your time and the presentation on Africa Geo portal, and we have learned a lot. So next you are going to Digital Earth Africa, and we will be, our speaker will be Dr. Kenneth. I need to get it. Yeah, our speaker will be Dr. Kenneth Mubea. He is the Youth Engagement Manager for Digital Earth Africa. His work involves technical support and like pushing for the use of digital earth in geospatial works, and he also works as a technical manager, GIS technical manager, the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Data. And education yields a PhD in geography from the University of Bonn, that is in Germany. So Dr. Kenneth, we are ready to listen to you. You are very much welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gordon, and good morning, everyone. I wish to give you a presentation on the Digital Earth Africa, and also as part of the presentation, I had done a small pre-recording of the presentation, including a small demo, which will make things a little bit easier. Then I'll be there at the end to answer any questions. So thank you very much, and I wish to share my screen.
Sorry, does this have audio? We can't hear the audio, the video.
If there's no audio, I'll just do it manually. I think these are called technical challenges, which happens once in a while. So I believe now I'm audible.
Yes, but you can
Thank
see
you.
the lines.
Okay, thank you very much. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to give you an overview of Digital Earth Africa.
Just a minute. We can hear you clearly, but we cannot see the presentation.
Okay.
Okay, now it's working now.
Thank you, Godwin. Apologies for the challenges with the technology. So I wish to give you an overview of Digital Earth Africa. This platform presents analysis-ready data for the whole continent, and it will help us in unlocking the challenge of the lack of data. So the solution is able to provide analysis-ready data for decision-making, which will be useful for governments, private sector, civil society, and the impact over time will be that various sectors will be able to leverage this data as we working with various partners to make sure we leverage on existing partnerships as well as in existing initiatives such as the open data. So in a nutshell, Digital Earth Africa uses the Open Data Cube platform, which is able to capture data from the satellites. And then this is processed in terms of analysis ready data. Here we are using various formats from the CEOs. This is the Committee of Earth Observation Satellites, and the products built in terms of analysis ready data, which are now very much useful for different sections in terms of decision making, either in land, resource companies, statistics, agriculture, policy, innovators, as also as innovators as many of us in this group. So what you can do with Digital Earth Africa is that we already have these Earth observation data for the whole of the continent. And remembering what Laura mentioned earlier on in terms of Sustainable Development Goals, this will be useful in that, and also the African Union Agenda 2063. And also the platform is fit for purpose in terms of we have the users who want to access the data, the users who want to do some development in terms of using the notebooks, and the users who want to actually access some of the data in the other platforms, such as I've seen my colleague from Esri, the Africa Job Portal, and also other platforms, including your own software, JS. Digital Earth Africa has developed some of the products for the whole continent. We have the water observations from space, which gives you a variability of water, where it is and where it has been, either areas where there have been floods and droughts over time. And this is very useful in terms of policy making and also showing, visualizing what is happening over time, and also very useful for engagement with policy makers who need more information to see what has happened historically. In this product, we use Landsat 8 for the last 8 years, and we're exploring on updating it every year. We are working on the food security layer. This is a crop mask for the whole of Africa. We are working with the various partners in Africa, including RCMRD, AfriGist, JOCLAM. So the product is very much relying on the data products, the data validations which have been collected from various ministries and departments on agriculture, working closely with our validation team, and this product will be available soon. Be very useful for supporting SDG number 2 on food security. As you can see the example, you can see some crops circles in Egypt and also some areas in Burundi. So the whole platform is for the whole Africa, west to east, leaving no one behind. An overview of the DE Africa, we have the map view where we can actually, all the users can actually access the data, very easy to use. You can search for data, explore, compare, and also create story maps in tandem with what Esri is able to do. We also have the Map Explorer where you can access the data platform, the data in our platform. Currently we have Landsat 7 and 8, we have Sentinel-2, we are working on the Sentinel-1, and this will be very nice also to add some capabilities. We also have the sandbox, which is for developers, and you can actually make use of the various notebooks and capitalize on the various examples that we have. And all this information is available in the platform as well as on GitHub platform. So everything is really open. In support also of open data, we are providing APIs that you can access some of these data also in your own QGs. You can access some of the platforms, WMS and coverage. And this is in tandem with the FAIR principles of open data, including opportunities for interoperability with other systems. And you can actually visualize this data in your own GIS clients, ArcGIS, QGIS, and so on and so on. We are working also closely with our partners, as Pauline presented on the Africa Job Portal. This is our key partner. And on the left, you can see that we already have these data sets that you can actually access through various clients. All these data sets on the Digital Earth Africa and the Amazon Web Service, they can be accessed various APIs. So unlocking the opportunities of working beyond the desktop products. Digital Earth Africa has developed various strategies, communication, capacity, partnership, alignment, data validation, gender equity, diversity, and social inclusion, as well as sustainable strategy. More relevant to our discussion will be the gender strategy, where we aim to work with the youth, gender, people with disabilities, working from people from west to south, north, regardless of your background. You can use the platform to make a difference in your life and also a difference in your communities, which is very important as you move forward in terms of SDGs, Vision 2030, as well as the Big Four agenda and many, many more. Digital Earth Africa has developed the training materials online, which consist of pre-recorded videos, tutorials, and manuals. And the best part, you receive a certificate of completion. And parallel to this, we hold weekly sessions every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Ghana time. This will be 2 p.m. East Africa time. The objective of the lively sessions is to get more feedback and get more information about the current use cases you're working on, and also opportunities to work with you to develop use cases. An overview of the training is that we look at the various introduction to the platform, the various data sets, composites, indices, vegetation analysis, as well as water analysis. And also we have an extra session for Python basics, just to top up some of the skills that you may require in understanding these particular notebooks. This just gives you an example of the DE Africa map view, where you can actually visualize water variability over time. Looking at this context, we have for an area specifically of showing the changes of water over time, and the deep blue shows the areas which have been consistently water, and the colors from green to red, and red showing areas which are a little bit dry over time. So this is a very good tool when you communicate and also when you investigate more about what has been happening in an area, trying to help you understand more. In support of the food security, we also have this very interesting animation that you can develop, and you can actually show crops over time, over even 20, 30 years. This can be very good when you communicate with various ministries, department, agencies, and also various researchers, showing them what has actually happened historically, as we aim to understand what is happening in the future. Digital Earth Africa is very keen to work with you in development of various use cases. For example, we've been working with the National Bureau of Statistics in Tanzania to show some vegetation changes in some regions in the Shimiu. We're also working with colleagues in Ghana, the EPA, to show the impact of mining. We're also working with IFAD to show assessment of coffee in Central Kenya. We're also working with Regional Center for Mapping, and also I know David Ongo is in the line, looking at water quality, water extent, urbanization, and also we're working with colleagues from Zanzibar. This is the State University of Zanzibar, looking at mangroves over time. Then we are very keen in terms of co-development of the use cases with the various users, having more engagement with you. And also, as I mentioned, we have some champions like Benedict Mugambi from Tanzania National Bureau of Statistics. Been able to work with him. He's the head of the GIS there. Been able to work with him how we can actually come up with the results, how you can even engage with some of the policymakers, as this particular example where you're explaining to a regional commissioner how you can actually use this to show the trends in vegetation, which is very useful. We also have one of our champions, Stella Mutai with IFAD. She was able to use the DE Africa platform to apply for the Famine by Satellite prize, which she won in 30th November. And this particular use case was demonstrating how they actually use a platform using a GIS, the DE Africa, in the terms of monitoring and evaluation. So there are many opportunities that we can work together with you, working in agriculture, water, urbanization, forests, etc., etc. The limitations are many. So I wish to also present to you some very useful links, including the GitHub link and the various links that I mentioned earlier on, how we can actually look at the platform, developers, and also the training materials. And last but not least, wish to thank you very much for your attention. I know it was a weekend, even getting this time to participate is, no, it's a little bit demanding, but I hope I thank you very much for joining us in this presentation, and looking forward to hear from you in terms of questions, comments, and feedbacks. Thank you so much. Mr. Goodwin, are we live?
Not yet, not yet.
So I ended my presentation early so that I could engage more with the users in terms of any questions and comments.
Okay, so for the questions, we have one here from Eileen, she's Eileen Magero. So she's asking, do you have an example for where Earth observation of a region is used as an assessment indicator for achievement of SDG goals?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much for your question. And as I presented in the two examples where I was showing some animations, there was an example of the water. So we have one on the water extent supporting SDG 6.61 example. We even had the same example with Lex Lunga in Tanzania. And if she wants, I could present the video if I could get it somewhere. Then there's a particular example with the one I mentioned about IFAD, where they're interested in the monitoring of agriculture and food security. So that will be SDG number 2. Thank you very much, Laura. I think Gordon, I've seen the question from Laura, the best question ever. So to use the DE Africa platform, you don't need any cloud computing skills. The program is just you register online and you actually access it online. Everything is running on the cloud, thanks to the support from the Amazon Cloud Service.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Kenneth, for the presentation. I see more questions are coming. So there's one here. Does this digital Earth Africa platform use GIS software like ArcGIS?
That's a good question. The moment we're using some libraries, which are GIS software or GIS libraries itself. So everything is running on the cloud. So what we can do in case you need to connect with other software, like the ones you've mentioned, ArcGIS and QGIS, is that you can actually export some of the results from what we have to your platform. So maybe as in support of the open data, we can look at the history of time. Most of guys are in campus right now, so they only know QGIS and ArcGIS. Laura, have you heard about the ArcView 3.2? Maybe it was in the long time ago. So it means things have really changed over time. So you even have, you never met ArcView 3.2.
Well, I started with, I think, ArcMap 10.3.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I was trying to do just a small poll of how far we've been. We've gone through the journey. I think even before ArcView 3.2, there was also the one which is used to run on like on a command based. So things have really evolved over time. So I'm trying to look at the last 10 years, 20 years who've been stuck on the desktop products over time. And the Open Data Cube came in around 2016, 2017, and it was adopted in Australia. Where they came up with the Digital Earth Australia. And also parallel to this, we have the Open Data Cube itself, where we had the Africa Regional Data Cube in 2018 as given as a pilot for Digital Earth Africa. So Africa Regional Data Cube was based on 5 countries, and now D-Africa is based on now the whole continent. I wish to draw you examples that you can still use the Open Data Cube if you want. You can use it offline for other applications. We have some very good examples like in the US, where we have the Virginia Data Cube for a certain county. So you can just look at the libraries and we can actually set up one of yourself if you want to. So I'm looking at kind of innovations and possibilities, but still with the D-Africa platform, you can access everything we have on the GitHub, and everything is running on Python. And I wish to post the link on the chat for the GitHub. Then, yeah, I think this is okay. So Godwin, any question for us?
From the Ds, I can see there is none. But Pauline has added something that they are working with Digital Africa to easily have access to their observation repository on their ArcGIS system, which is a good thing. The next thing is just the link and the presentation that you've sent. So thank you very much, Dr. Kenneth. I hope our attendees will now be able to use, like to go and interact with the platform itself so that they can learn more and they can use it for their work and also for their projects at school or wherever they're working. Next, you are going to have David Ongo from Regional Center. And just a brief about David Ongo. Is a geospatial expert who is specializing in natural resource monitoring and management. Is also part of the technical advisory committee for the Digital Earth Africa, which Dr. Kenneth has spoke about. So thank you very much. Ongo, the floor is yours now. You can take over and present to us. Thank you.
Just a minute. I'm confirming if he's here yet. I can't see him in the participants list. So let me just follow up with him, and then I get back. But I guess in the meantime, similarly as we had asked Lorian and Pauline, if Dr. Kenneth, if you don't mind, if you could share as well with us any career advice you'd offer to students or young professionals who are on the call right now. Can be anything really.
Thank you, Laura. As also Laura was one of our students in JQuat, I think the advice is to be consistent in what you're doing. Continue to be doing your best. The opportunities come with time, and also I think David is trying to platform.
Okay, yeah, we'll give him a few minutes and see if he's having any issues to join. Yeah, but if in the meantime, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask on chat. Yeah, also maybe take these few minutes to open the links that have been shared on chat, and then maybe bookmark them or save them for future use. Yeah.
Yeah, there's several links on the chat box that are coming from Pauline. So guys can just click on them as you wait for Ongo. It was here, but maybe there was a connection problem. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's one very long link I'm sharing. That's for as we wait for David. You could sign up on Africa Geoportal right now as you wait for David. Just for you at least to have a look at some of the tools you can start making use of. And I also share a link to the learning resources that you could plan on using at least a few hours in your week just to help you grow your capacity in using these tools.
Thank you, Pauline.
Godwin, David had some challenges with the internet, so he'll send me his slides, then I'll be able to present on his behalf if you don't mind.
It's okay, Go ahead. I'm saying it's okay for you to present on his behalf, Dr. Kenneth.
Thank you very much, Godwin. So it's somewhere on the ship coming, so I'm waiting for the link as well. Grateful for the advice from Pauline, and also trying to follow up on Laura's question of the consistency, and as well as most guys in the group should belong to the student body of like society in GIS. I think Laura, you had such a group in JQuat, and also I think these really help people get exposed. Like the one in JQuat, they used to have sessions for industry. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
There's someone is asking for the link. So interactive vegetative change section from Pauline.
Okay.
Thanks, Jacob. So for this link, it's on the page we have for Digital Africa, which will share the link. And from there, you can see some of the tools available in addition to the interactive change mapping tool. We also have a number of tools. One of my favorite ones is on water observation from space, which is a really useful data set or repository that Digital Earth Africa has, and we just have a tool that can allow you to do, in addition to what is already being done within the Digital Earth Africa Explorer, just also for you to be able to do a few other things also within Africa Geoportal. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pauline. The link is there, so in the chat box, anyone would like to access, they can just click on the link. So we'll give Dr. Kenneth some minutes so that he can prepare the presentation from David.
Thank you very much, Godwin. The presentation has just arrived, and the best part of this presentation is that it's the first time I'm looking at it, but very aware of what is happening.
Okay, you can now go ahead and share the presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So the outline of this presentation is to give you an overview of regional center, but now specifically to open data, I'll just draw you to the specific examples. Then we'll be able to provide a PDF of these for particular follow-up, because I know we are on a tight schedule of time. So just to give you an overview is that RCMRD has been there since 75. And it was set up at the under auspices of UNECA to support various development initiatives in Africa, including SDGs. The mission here is to become a center of excellency, and this is to be in terms of geoinformation and also we're working with member states from Ethiopia to South Africa. These are 20 member states. So the services we offer more of training, supporting ministries and department, and so on and so on. As mentioned about the member states, there are 20 from Ethiopia to South Africa. And also, we are happy that Kenya is the host, and you can always visit us anytime. So as I mentioned, some of these services, we have training, capacity development, projects, advisory, research and development, as well as knowledge management. And also, we also have internships once a year. So here, the opportunity is to give you more information about the data that we have. We are working with various partners, Digital Earth Africa, ESRI, and so on and so on. So as a recap, this is just data, vector, raster data. These are many things that we know of. This was just trying to give us a background of GIS. But in this audience, I'm happy this is just a sell-through. So just giving you an overview of some of the data sets that we have. We host some data archives on Landsat, MODIS. We also have a MODIS receiving station. We also work with colleagues for data on climate, that is JAPS. We also have data with Sentinel-1 and 2. And the receiving station, you can always visit us and see it for yourself, receiving twice a day in the morning and the evening. And MODIS, as you know, you get it frequently every 8 days and very useful for assessments over time. And also, most of the data we just give you for free if you visit us, or we just send you the link and we can get it in terms of clipping an area of interest. For the commercial data, you just have to give us an outline of the area, then we can advise you on the payment and the cost. So when you look about the commercial data, we're looking at data from Airbus. This is high resolution data. The best part about open data in support is that we have the geoportal and at USMID, where we have various data sets and maps and MODIS, and I believe also working closely with ESRI to have some of the same in our end. These apps are very useful in terms of addressing the various thematic areas from weather and climate, land cover, and etc. and etc. And also in support of rangeland, like this particular rangeland tool, which is available for us to get an assessment of how things are changing over time, including when you have now more rainfall, you'll see vegetation is more green in certain areas. This is an example of an Earth Explorer where you can actually access some of the data sets like what you have on the USGS. On the Copernicus, you can access some of the data sets. This is the Sentinel-1 and 2, including other products. You also have access to other products like alloys. This is the SAR data, JAS, and so on and so on. I believe most of you are more conversant with the Sentinel-2 and the Landsat, and SAR, synthetic operator data, is useful in case where we have a lot of cloud cover. Some of the datasets from Airbus that we have, they are a little bit costly, but the value is there in terms of high resolution, looking at blades, sports, and very useful in case you have a small area that you're focusing on, like a crop farming area or an area where you're exploring some minerals and so on and so on. We also have data from MAXA. This is at high resolution, and the frequency is often there. And we give you the support in terms of the cost and how you can actually use the platform to get the data. We also have other services. This is in the training. We have the Geoinformation Center where you have trainings in various software. We also have advisory services. And last but not least, this is our email so that you can catch up with us. Sorry, I was joined by someone who wants to be a GIS enthusiast just like you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Kenneth, for that. I don't know if you guys have any question to Dr. Kenneth. This is not his presentation, but if you have a question that you would like to ask, it's okay. I think you can address that. So if not, all the presentations will be available after the event. You shall send those presentations to your email, the email that you used to register. So thank you very much. Next, we're going to introduction to OpenStreet mapping. And now there's a question here. Before we get to OpenStreet mapping, there's a question from Mary asking, how does one apply for an internship in your organization? I think this one is to Kenneth, Dr. Kenneth.
Yes, yes, we normally have this on our website, rcmd.org, and under vacancies is where you can actually post for, you can write to us and for internships. And also there's an email where if you write to us also at rcmd.org, we're able to respond to you. And also, you're also welcome to visit us at Kasarani. We have a new building, something nice for you to come and see. As I talk about this presentation, I also used to work for RCMD, so I'm privy to what I'm presenting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So to ask about internships or to inquire, you can write to the email that have been sent to in the chat box or click on the website. You can check the vacancies there. To visit regional center, it's along Thika Road. Just when you are around Kasarani, you can see some nice building on your right, as Dr. Kenneth has said. So next, you are going to introduction to OpenStreet mapping. Our presenter is Laura Mugea, who is also our host. She is a operations analyst at Synergy. She's also the regional ambassador for YouthMappers in East and Central Africa. So I won't talk much about Laura. She's here. She'll talk about herself in our presentation. So Laura, you're welcome to present to us. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, so first of all, I hope everyone is doing okay. I hope you're learning something. Yeah, sorry that David could not join us today. Yeah, I was looking forward to hearing from him about what RCMD is using, how RCMD is using open data and also promoting open data. But I guess maybe as a follow-up, we could always organize another webinar with him to hear more about that. However, he also, I think a week ago, he did another webinar with GeoSK, Geospatial Society of Kenya. So hopefully maybe if that was recorded, we could also share a link because he was presenting about RCMD and the work they do and everything. Yeah, so first of all, I'll say thank you to our previous speakers for sharing with us about Africa Geoportal, Digital Earth Africa. I think those are very important platforms for students and even young professionals to start learning about them if we have not yet started to. Because I think when we finally go to the workplace, then we usually start encountering issues to do with data, especially from experience. I've not been able to work in a GIS consultancy per se, but I've got a chance to work with organizations that do not have a GIS department, so you're the only person doing data and specifically GIS data. And it can be a bit tricky to get data or even to get resources in terms of funds for data collection and such things. Same applies to software. I usually advocate a lot for free and open source software up to a point where people think I hate proprietary software, but that's not the case. It's also just because that I think for most of us, once you get to the workplace, it also becomes a bit harder to get access to the commercial or proprietary options that we have. So yeah, I think it's very important to learn about these platforms and tools just because it might be the first challenge you encounter once you finish school. yeah, but also generally, as I just shared initially, I think open data is very important and very useful for very many reasons, especially in terms of open research and open science, and even open innovation. Yeah, so my session is actually the last one. I would say it's the most simplest. It's about OpenStreetMap. So I'll stop sharing my video, then I'll share my screen. Yeah, and also as the rest had done as well, if you have any questions, feel free to post them on chat, and then we can go through them together. Yeah, and even as I sort out, my presentation is still opening up. Yeah, as Godwin had shared, I work part-time as a YouthMappers regional ambassador. And what that just means is that I support student-led clubs, the various ones in our universities. I think almost every university has a student club where students meet, they network, they learn from each other. They also invite organizations to share with them. So maybe, for example, if you really loved the presentation from Pauline, from Lorianne, from Dr. Kenneth, I don't know if they're open to that, but you can reach out to them, and then you can plan to have them come and sort of share with you about all these tools and all these platforms. And also, it can also just be any other organizations in Kenya that are using GIS. So yeah, so as part of YouthMappers, what we usually do is we promote the use and contribution of open data, specifically open geospatial data, and we mainly use a platform called OpenStreetMap, and that's what I'll be sharing about today. So I'll start by giving a brief overview of the platform, and then yeah, we can do a short mapping exercise. I'll also agree that today is a weekend, so the plan is to finish this as early as possible, but at the same time making sure everyone is learning or someone gets to learn something new. Yeah. So I hope you can see my presentation. I'll go on full screen. Okay. So yeah, if you have any questions, kindly post them. Yeah. So if you're not familiar with OpenStreetMap, it's basically a collaborative project that allows for anyone from anywhere in the world to create an account and be able to edit the map. There's usually a very huge debate in the OpenStreetMap community about the correct definition of OpenStreetMap. It's commonly known as the Wikipedia of maps. Just the same way in Wikipedia or Wikipages, you can create an account and you can write an article on someone or update an article. There's no sort of verification process for a user. So anyone anywhere can learn how to use Wikipedia and do it. It's the same way OSM is. You can create an account, you can learn how to contribute, and you can use the data. So yeah, that's basically what OSM is. And some of the most common definition that I agree with is that it's the only free and open geodatabase of the world. And why it's referred to a geodatabase as opposed to a web map, it's because as compared to a web map, maybe something like Google Maps, you are able to only view and query the map. So if you go to googlemaps.com, you can be able to search for a restaurant, for a hotel, for a school, right? But you can, as a GIS professional, as a GIS student, what you need is data. You cannot download GIS data from Google Maps. And even for you to add Google Maps, maybe to, if you're a software developer or a mobile, or a software engineer, you still need to pay for the platform to be able to use it for that purpose. I'm not sure if maybe as an organization or as an individual, you're also able to pay Google for them to offer their map data. I've never heard about that. Yeah, but that's the difference between the two. So why a geodatabase for OSM in terms of definition? It's because you're able to access the platform, you're able to add a feature, query a feature, delete, modify, update. So you're basically able to do everything, all the capabilities of a geodatabase. Yeah, so that's what I usually use myself. So it's the only free and open geodatabase of the world, and it's created through collaboration. And how it works is that it works through the different OSM communities, and also uses the local knowledge that is contributed by this community. So OpenStreetMap is organized through communities. For example, this event was organized by YouthMappers chapters. These chapters are OSM communities. At the country level, there are also OSM communities. Like in Kenya, we have a small growing OSM community called OSM Kenya. So there are like country level communities. There are regional communities. For example, in Africa, there is OSM Africa, and together, like, we learn from each other about how different communities are using OpenStreetMap. We even through OSM Africa, we also organize a regional conference called State of the Map Africa. And actually, the 2021 version is supposed to happen in Nairobi. So hopefully, if things will get better by November, there'll be an OpenStreetMap conference in Nairobi. So hopefully that happens. Then maybe people will be able to meet. Yeah, so OSM mainly works through communities. In as much as anyone can create an account and be able to make some edits and use the data, some of the most impactful work has been done through communities. And this is just groups of people coming together to learn together, to create this data, to even further use the data and all that. Because why communities are also very important in OpenStreetMap, it's because in as much as anyone, anywhere can edit the map and draw a building and draw a road, it's only someone in a local community who can name the road, either if they're using other data sources or actually going to the field to actually collect this data. So where OSM is, where OSM is at the moment, it's because of all the communities that exist. So, and as I've shared, in as much, other than adding the data, one can also update. So data is also usually updated by these communities in case there are new features, in case places have been closed and such things. A good example would be last year, we did some projects with the UN Habitat where we mapped the refugee camps in northern Kenya, and we ended up updating the map to remove data for refugee camps that were permanently closed a year ago, and that is something that we had not done before. Yeah, so as I shared, anyone can add to the map. You do not have to have a GIS background, a mapping background. And that's why I think also OSM communities are really cool. Once you join a community, you usually meet people with different backgrounds, people doing or pursuing different careers, but everyone is just interested in creating this map. Yeah, and also anyone can improve it with local knowledge. So in as much as you're adding buildings and roads, what's more important is more information, like the names, the types. So if it's a building, is it a commercial structure? Is it a hospital? Is it a school? If it's a school, what's the type and all that? So without that information, it's almost useless to just have, okay, not almost useless, because there are people who actually just need data on number of buildings and number of roads. yeah, but it's more useful. Yeah, I guess that's the right word. It's more useful when you have more local information to the map. And in as much as anyone can map and edit, also anyone can use it for any purpose whatsoever. So you can access the data, you can download the data, you can add the map to your applications for free for any purpose. No one is judging. Yeah, and for anyone to get started, you just need internet and I guess a laptop, but also a phone at times. So there are various ways that one can contribute to OpenStreetMap. Yeah, so I thought I'd get into it to share how you can contribute to OSM. At times people think you can only contribute to OpenStreetMap through mapping, like adding and tracing the buildings and the roads, but that's not the case. But I will agree that that's the main way that you can contribute to OpenStreetMap. So going to the platform, as I'll show after this, creating an account and start mapping. It can be something that's close to your heart. So maybe it can be your home, it can be your rural home, it can be your school, but also it can be any project around the world that you feel like contributing to. There are really no rules on where to contribute to SM. And as I was sharing, it's really important that we add local information. And also why this is also really highlighted and emphasized, it's because over the years, I think last year we were celebrating 10 years of OpenStreetMap existing. Over the years, like a lot of data has been contributed, a lot of areas have been mapped, meaning a major gap that exists is the lack of local information. So there's a need to shift or now to include the mapping and adding of local information. And personally, I think it's also important to explore other open data sources that are available that can also help us to add such information, so that we do not necessarily have to go to the field to actually carry out these mapping exercises. So say, for example, if the Ministry of Health has openly shared their data on health facilities, we can use this data to update health facilities that are already in our SEM with information like services and such things. So it doesn't only have to be that we have to go to the field and do all this work. And a thing with OSM is that a lot of work is usually voluntary, so there's limited time for mappers who are contributing to the map. So you can always try and find creative ways that you can improve the map. And these are just some tools that you can use in case you'd like to contribute to OSM by adding local information. So Maps.me is an Android app that it's similar to the Google Maps app. Yeah, only that it's using OSM, and then you can also make changes to the map using your phone. The other main way that I'm going to show today is by using your laptop only. Yeah, and then there's also Mapillary. Mapillary, I don't know if you might have read about it last year as well. It was recently acquired by Facebook, but it's an application that allows you to capture street level imagery, and you can use this imagery to add more information like street signs, even names of buildings that are visible now on street level imagery. Because when we are mapping on OSM, we usually use satellite imagery, so we are only able to add things like buildings and roads by tracing. But if you need more information, maybe street level imagery then comes in handy. Then there's Open Map Kit. There's also another one called OSM and that you can use as well. Then the other way that one can contribute is through data validation. So when we carry out projects that are using OpenStreetMap, we usually have two processes. There's the mapping process where everyone is tracing and adding buildings and roads, but there's a validation process where advanced mappers usually cross-check what has been contributed to the map by then looking at each contribution and then checking to see if everything is okay, if things have been missed. In as much as OpenStreetMap has very many mappers, there are not as many validators. So in case you have some experience with mapping on OpenStreetMap, you can always learn to validate. It's almost the same process. And by this, you'll be able to even have a more accurate data source when it comes to OSM. And then, but also another thing that validation would help with is that initially when OSM started, there are not so many open imagery resources, and even a lot of the companies that now provide imagery to OSM had not started providing. So a lot of data was mapped with very poor or very satellite imagery of very low resolution. So there's a lot of work in terms of fixing what was mapped then. Yeah, so in case you're an advanced mapper, you can always learn how to validate and help out. And there are also a number of tools for quality assurance. Yeah, I'll share this presentation so you can always explore them and learn about them. Yeah, then other than OSM just being a platform where you can access data freely, it's also actually open source. So if you're a software engineer or you have some experience with coding, you can always work to improve some of the platforms that we use for OSM, because the OSM website where people mainly access OSM to is open source. The editors that we use, as I'll share after this, like the ID editor and the JOSM platform, all of them are open source. So if you have such experience, you can always join and contribute in that way. And there's also a huge need for documentation of all these tools and the platform as well. Then lastly, or not lastly, I think it's the second last, you can always join an existing OSM community. Yeah, because in as much as people might know what OSM is, I'd say it's fairly a new concept in some countries and in some regions. So a lot of times people just know what OSM is for knowing purposes. In case someone ever asks you, you are aware. But I usually notice that people do not know like the tiny details that are really important in terms of contribution, in terms of even accessing the data, downloading the data, the different ways that you can download this data. So if there's an existing OSM community, you can always join one and support the community. And at times you can, if there's no community, you can create one. Yeah, so maybe you are in another city in Kenya, maybe because currently the OSM community in Kenya is mainly based in Nairobi, so activities are around this area. So maybe if you find out there are more mappers maybe in Kisumu or in Mombasa, you can always organize and get support from the OSM Kenya community to like maybe support in terms of providing training and such things. Yeah, because I really do believe that much more is usually done through communities in terms of projects and such things, as opposed to being an individual. And then I guess also nowadays there's a lot of let's say financial support to carry out projects that are OSM based, and as an individual, it's almost impossible for someone to get a grant to perform such a project. So also that's how communities could help in a way or another. Yeah, so you can join a community and support the mapping of local projects. You can attend events like this one and talk and present and maybe share your experience. In the OSM community, the main conferences, there are two main conferences. One called OpenStreet Set of the Map, which is the global OpenStreetMap conference. This year's is actually virtual. It's happening in July. Then as I shared, there's also a State of the Map Africa, which is more regional. So yeah, but then there are also like so many events in between these conferences that happen. So you can always attend to learn. You can always present, maybe if you've done a presentation, not a presentation, a project using OSM, and you'd like to share your results or your experience. Yeah, it might help someone in another country or in another region trying to do the same thing. Yeah, then you can always volunteer to also help in terms of planning for events. If it's physical events, usually a lot of logistics that have to be catered for in terms of venues and such things. Yeah. Then lastly, is it really lastly? There are, in as much as OSM is a platform, it's an open platform. There's a foundation that sort of manages everything that happens. So it's called the OpenStreetMap Foundation. And the OpenStreetMap Foundation has a board of directors that sort of govern the foundation in general. And in as much as there's a board, there are so many working groups within the foundation as well. So there's the communications working group that handles all the social media and outreach platforms. So the wiki pages, the social media pages, if there are any updates to be shared. Then the things like the data working group that obviously monitors everything to do with data, because with a platform that is mainly, its data is mainly contributed through crowdsourcing, there's a lot of monitoring that needs to happen. Because as I shared with you, anyone can edit and modify. And an example of editing is deleting. So someone can decide to log in, maybe accidentally, or I don't know, they maybe delete a huge chunk of data in Nairobi. The data working group would be able to monitor that change and revert, reach out to that person, get a reason why, and then see if maybe to sort of block that person if the person had ill motives. Yeah, then there's the engineering working group that works on developing all the tools that we're using, all the open source tools that we're sharing earlier. The other thing is the licensing working group that monitors the use of OpenStreetMap. In as much as OSM is an open platform, there's a need, if you use OSM directly to your products, you usually need to license, and it's just an attribution that is usually at the bottom of your screen. If you look at Google Maps, there's attribution at the bottom. Even if you look at maps by Esri at Just Online, there's usually attribution at the bottom. Even for a lot of Esri maps use OSM data, and you notice there's Esri attribution and there's OSM attribution. So that is work that is done by the licensing working group, monitoring which organizations are directly using OSM data and if correct attribution has been made to the OSM community. Then other working groups are the membership working groups, operations. Then there's an organizing committee for State of the Map, for the State of the Map conference. Then a working group that monitors local chapters and supports local chapters and communities. Yeah, then I'd say short-term committees that are created to deal with tasks that are not going to happen regularly. So the Diversity and Inclusion Committee that was formed just a year ago to sort of work on improving the diversity of the OSM community, and yeah, the Force Policy Committee and the Microgrants Committee. As I shared, nowadays there are a number of resources in terms of financial resources to support local communities that are working with OpenStreetMap. Then other than that, there's a different community called the HOT community. HOT in full is Humanitarian OpenStreetMap Team. And the difference between HOT and OSMF, sorry for the background noise, there's a truck passing. Yeah, the difference between HOT and OSMF is that the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap Team mainly focuses on the use of OSM in the humanitarian sector. And if you have been closely following up in the space, you might have noticed that HOT OSM as an organization received major funding last year, and they're actually creating hubs. There's an East African hub that is being created, and actually the main office will be in Nairobi. So I guess this would be a very great opportunity for OSM to grow in the country, and also even in terms of the OSM community in Kenya and how they can learn from that. And also, I guess, in terms of jobs and such things, then people can get access to work within the organization, especially for individuals in the country who have always been interested in working directly with OpenStreetMap and humanitarian data, because there are very few organizations in Kenya that use OpenStreetMap as a data source and also working around OpenStreetMap itself. So yeah, so as part of that, or even not as part of that, at the moment, even right now, you can join the hot community as well. And they also have several working groups that are present that anyone could join and contribute as well. So I'd encourage you to go and have a look at Hot OSM as an organization. And also if you're looking for a job in the space, you can also keep them in the loop, follow them on social media. I'm sure they'll be sharing a number of open job applications very soon. Yeah, then I guess this, the second last is advocacy. Just like I'm doing today, sharing about OpenStreetMap. A lot of people assume that people know about OpenStreetMap, which is not the case. I have personally interacted with people who don't know about the platform. GIS people, I'm not just talking about general, the general community or the general tech community. Yeah, so you can always share about OpenStreetMap through events, through such webinars, by directly sharing about it. Then the other thing is also building applications using OSM data. As Pauline had presented earlier, if you're using no-code platforms like ArcGIS Online, you're able to use OpenStreetMap directly through that. If you are maybe building your applications from scratch, you're also able to use OpenStreetMap directly to your web and mobile applications, in your story maps, in your data stories and everything. But even if you're more of a GIS analyst, you're also able to download OSM data in various formats using various tools, and get this data and use this data as a source for your projects. So I guess maybe in terms of your data search strategy, one of the first things that you can do is actually search and check if the data that you're looking for is on OpenStreetMap before maybe asking for it in an open forum like all these JS groups in Kenya. So you can always also have a check on OSM to see if the data is available. And I guess this is also very useful if maybe you're in Kenya and you are working on a project in another country where you're not sure of the open data portals that are there and how open their data is. You can always have a look at what's available on OSM first. Then you can also carry out research on OSM. There's a lot of research on OSM as a data source, its quality, even random things like, I think I was reading a paper recently on how corporates or like big tech companies are interested in OpenStreetMap. Yeah, so you can always carry out research on OSM if it's just research, general research, or maybe if it's for your master's or for your PhD. The people who've done that, and I think there's still even more to be done. Yeah, then lastly, through writing. So you can always write and share your experience as well about OSM. Yeah, so before I get into it, I don't know if, I'm not sure if there are any questions. I don't think so. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think so. So I'll just get into it. If you have a laptop, you can follow along. So I'll also be posting the links on chat, but I'll also share this presentation after this. So I'm just going to share, like, give an overview of the platform. So you can go to openstreetmap.org. Let me check that as well. Okay. So yeah, you can go to openstreetmap.org. What you can see is a web map just the same way you would go to Google Maps and you would see a map. Maybe it's a bit different because of styling and everything. Yeah, but this is OpenStreetMap. This is how it looks like. At the top, you can see there's an option to edit. There's history, a way to export data and more information. If you do not have an account, you would see an option here to sign up or sign in. So yeah, you can create an account. It's very simple. It's the same way that you would create an account on any other platform or even like a social media account. You'll just create an account. You'll get an email using the email address that you used to sign up. Then you activate your account. So if you have your laptop, if you're doing your laptop, you can do it together and continue. Yeah. So maybe I don't know, maybe for showing purposes I could log out. Yeah, but it's just like creating an account anywhere else. You just need your email address. You need a username. The display name is your username, and you need password. Yeah, but if you don't like is a lot of work, you can also use a third-party application. So you can sign up using Google, Facebook, GitHub, Wikipedia. If you have any of those accounts as well, you can use a third-party account. So yeah, once you sign up for an account and you log in, you should be able to see the map. So as I was sharing earlier, you can view the map, you can query the map. So I can search for any area. I searched for Lamu because it was just there. Then you get a couple of results. You can click on a result. You can zoom in to see more information. You can see like a couple of buildings have been mapped, a couple of more things have been mapped, like land uses and such things. And I guess that's also like the beauty of OpenStreetMap. You can add any sorts of data, like it's from buildings to roads to land uses to water features like rivers, lakes, oceans, all those things. You can pretty much map anything. What else could we search? I guess in Kenya, the OSM story in Kenya is in Kibera. I don't know why it's yeah, like a lot of work has been done in mapping Kibera because initially, if you would go to Google Maps, Kibera was just a blank space on the map. So it looked like a random place in Nairobi that has no buildings and nothing there. But then this organization called Map Kibera Trust came in and like mapped the entire of Kibera. So I actually think Kibera in Kenya is like the most mapped area in the whole of Kenya. So it's actually here. It's usually easy to know where Kibera is on the map because of the railway line. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Yeah, so as you can see, it's like the most mapped, well-mapped area in Nairobi, or even in Kenya in general, because like all the buildings are mapped, or the plots, and then also it's a lot of data in terms of points of interest are added, like hospitals, schools, churches, all those things are there. So if you ever need to work on a project in Kibera, I would recommend checking out OpenStreetMap and having a look at that. Oh, maybe if the people who are not Kenyan in the call, Kibera is an informal settlement in Nairobi. And I would assume as well it's the second largest in Africa after Soweto in South Africa, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, but It's the largest in Kenya. Yeah. So that's a good thing with OSM. So in areas where data is usually normally not collected by either government and organizations, because organizations just do not work there, then it also allows for people who need such data to contribute to the map. Yeah, so once you get here, you can see the map, you can query the map, you can, the other thing you can do is you can download the data. So there are various ways that you can download OSM data. For that, I would share a resource that you can use for that, because there are so many different ways, and that would take a lot of time. But just for sharing purposes, the easiest one to use is called the Hot Export Tool. It was developed by the humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, the organization that I was just sharing with you earlier. Trying to open another. Okay, let me replace this. Yeah, so the main one to use, or the easiest to use, is the Hot Export Tool. I'll not go through it, but I'll just show you how it looks like. Yeah, but there's so many other tools. I'll share all the resources for that on how you can download the same data, and the tools vary depending on what you want. Like the tools that you can use to download an entire data set for an area. There are tools that you can use to only download one specific data set. And for example, is the Hot Export Tool. So with the Hot Export Tool, what you just need to do, okay, you name your export, and then you can define the format that you want your data in. If it's GeoPackage, if it's shapefiles. I think a lot of people use shapefiles. So yeah, whichever data format that you're comfortable with, you can use that. If you're comfortable with KML, you can use that and all that. And then with the Hot Export Tool, it's also a tool that you can use to download specific data. So if you need only buildings, if you need only roads, you should be able to specify that. You can even break that down to specific buildings and such things. So yeah, you can have a look at the Hot Export Tool. Another tool maybe to share is called, also if you need specific data, it's called Overpass. Yeah, don't worry, I'll share all the resources to this. And Overpass uses what do you call them? Like you write these short commands to for the data that you need, and then you're able to download data for a specific purpose. And for both cases, like I guess I'd not shown you, even for the Hot Export Tool, you usually define an area on the map where you want. So you can upload, you can import your own layer. So if you want data for Nairobi, you can import your own layer of the Nairobi County boundary, and then you should be able to download your data for any format that you want. Yeah, but I'll share all the resources. Yeah, but there's so many ways. You can even download OSM data using QGIS. So yeah, I'll share everything after this. So I guess, yeah, you can, from here, what you can do is you can view the map, you can query the map, you can download the data. And I guess the main thing is that you can edit the map. So to start editing, there are two ways. So the first one is editing directly the map. So coming to OpenStreetMap.org, the website, and actually clicking on edit. And what we load is now one of the editing tools that I'd shared called ID Editor. And what ID Editor just does is that it loads a background layer, a satellite imagery layer, and then it also loads all the data on OSM. And from here, okay, you have to zoom in to be able to edit. From here, you can start editing. So you can be able to modify some of the features that have already been mapped. So you're able to add buildings, you're able maybe to move around roads if they've not been well mapped. Yeah, so this is actually ID editor that you're seeing now. It's within OpenStreetMap, but it's the ID editor platform. And in terms of how the different tools that you can see here is that the main thing you can see is satellite imagery, you can see data, then you can see options to add the data. So if you want to add a point, if you want to add a line or add an area, you can choose an option as I will show. And then on the right hand side there are more options. So in case you're not using a mouse, yeah, but I guess rule number one for editing on OpenStreetMap is you must have a mouse for speed. And then yeah, but if it's not a must, it's just preference. Then you can zoom to your location. So maybe if you are at home and you'd like to map your home, you can click on show my location, then you can zoom to that area. Then you can change the imagery. So a couple of organizations have shared with the OpenStreetMap community a satellite imagery to use for creating these features. So you can see there's Bing by Microsoft, you can see there's even S3, you can see there's Mapbox. Then the main imagery that we use is from Maxa. Formerly, I think, I don't know if you ever contributed to SM a couple of years ago, you could see digital globe. I think, I don't know if it was re-owned by Maxa or it was renamed to Maxa. Yeah, but it's the same to that. And then you can also just have a layer of the OpenStreetMap map itself. And then you can also if you have your own imagery. So maybe, for example, if you are doing a project and you actually captured your own drone imagery, you can always add it. If you have uploaded it somewhere, you can always add a link here. Or also maybe if you just have access to some other data set, you should be able to add that link as well. So you're not limited to what's available here. So, and then another thing to mention as well is when you're editing, if things are not clear, I think at times people forget, or maybe people do not think about it, but satellite imagery is like any other image in a way. And what I just mean is that you can filter that image just the same way we filter images for social media. You can also play around with the brightness, contrast, and saturation if you need things to be clearer. So maybe, for example, yeah, I think my laptop is a bit slow. Yeah, but as you can see, I increased contrast, and then you can see the buildings are now a bit more clearer and such things. So yeah, you can always play around with the display options to make imagery clearer for you. Then the last thing here you can see is the imagery offset. So the thing with OSM is also the fact that the way people are contributing to the map using different imagery sources. And it usually just depends, because at times you might be mapping an area and there's cloud cover. Yeah, I think if you've done some remote sensing and you've worked with satellite imagery, at times there's cloud cover in imagery, and maybe the most updated imagery is Maxa, but in an area there's cloud cover, so maybe you have to switch to something like Bing. Then it usually means using different imagery, and they're usually all these offsets, especially with Bing, because it has like some sort of aerial nature. So say, for example, if I shift, let me change to Bing, you'll notice that there's a difference in like the angle in a way. Yeah, you can even see that like there are more shadows and such things. So usually you can always do an offset so that what has already been mapped aligns with the imagery below. yeah, but this layers icon is for selecting imagery that you need to use. And the good thing, like you always do not have to think about it, Sana, because at times, most of the times or all the times for each mapping project, it's usually the project managers usually recommend imagery to use. That means they've just they've gone before you and have looked at the area and have seen which imagery will be the best to use. Then the other icon here is the map data icon. So first it shows OpenStreetMap data, so everything that has been contributed. Then it shows OpenStreetMap notes, which are notes that people usually add using an app in an area. So maybe there's another app that I have not shared. It's called Street Complete. So if you open that app and maybe you're in an area, it usually prompts you to maybe name roads and such things. And at times maybe there are roads that do not have names. So one could write a note and share that this is a path and has no name in the area. So if in CBD there are any notes. Or at times maybe notes also just appear as suggested names of areas, then someone usually verifies or uses that information to edit the map. Okay, so then the other things is like, you remember I mentioned something about Mapillary, which is a street level, an application for capturing street level imagery. So you can always display that data so that it shows. I'll show that in a few. Then you can also filter some of these data sources. So maybe in case you're working on a project where we are only mapping buildings, you can always maybe remove everything else, maybe just remain with roads so that you do not overlap, but you can remove everything else so that it's easier. And also you can see even in my case right now, my laptop is hanging a bit just because I zoomed into CBD, which has a lot of data. Yeah, then the other thing is issues. So issues are basically what, from what everyone has contributed to. These are just errors that have been auto-detected. So most of them are usually like places where buildings have been mapped, but they cross roads, or roads cross buildings. At times, there are like things like rivers crossing roads, but there are no bridges. Yeah, and such things. So they're usually like auto-detected errors that you can click on to edit. So, and I guess that's also like the main aim while I was sharing, like there's no one way of contributing to OpenStreetMap. There are so many ways. For example, if you're not a fan of digitizing, a lot of Kenyan people are not fans of digitizing. I don't know why. I guess it's because when we go for academic attachment or our first internships, it's the first and only task that you're usually given. But yeah, so in case maybe if you're not such a fan of it, you can always probably log into OpenStreetMap. For this, even you do not need to use a project management tool that I'll share after this. You can just come here and work on the issues. So, because if you click on an issue, it will zoom to it, and then you will be able to edit on that issue. So for example, you can see here that it shows that the error is that a hotel crosses a building, and as we know, in reality, yes, buildings do not cross each other. Unless there's one around the world. I don't know, personally I've never had. Yeah, so what you would do is you'd come and edit it. Yeah, so just move the nodes around and edit it. So you can always also just contribute to OpenStreetMap by fixing some of the errors that are there. Then, yeah, so up here you can select to see all the errors in view, or errors like around your view, and then you can also see if you have any errors. Yeah. So yeah, and you can also check the errors that you want to work on. So it can be, for example, what I had clicked on was only crossing ways. So if the buildings crossing each other, and then there's also things like disconnected ways. If you've done GIS, we've done things to do with topology, and we usually set rules like buildings do not cross each other, roads do not cross each other, or okay, roads can cross each other at junctions and such things. But maybe a road does not cross each other and like just moves like one extra node in. So it's actually based on those general GIS topology rules. Yeah, so like if a road crosses a river, then there should be a bridge. So and such things. So also if they're missing tags. So say for example, you draw a building, but you do not tag it as a building, or you draw a road and it's just a random line on the map, those will also appear as errors. So you can always work on maybe just improving the quality of the map by fixing some of these errors that are already on the map. Then, yeah, there's help in terms of maybe if you are a beginner and you're starting out, there are a lot of resources that I also share for you to learn and all that. Yeah, but I guess also a benefit of joining communities is just having people that you can ask about OSM. If you are trying to use OSM for a specific purpose, then you should be able to do it. So I'll close this first and try to open it in another area because my laptop is hanging. Yeah, so I'll just show how to quickly edit. Trying to find an area that has not been marked, Sana. So open, looks like an area in Kilimani or Westlands, I don't know. After Road is usually in which area? Forgotten. So once you open this, yeah, you can see this is an area that has not been mapped, and yeah, you can see imagery. I'll use Maxa just because it's the most recent in terms of how it's been updated on OpenStreetMap. So and then how to start contributing? It's easy. Contribution is done by tracing, what a lot of us refer to digitizing. So because at this point, things that I can do from where I am is that I can add a building, I can add a road. Yeah. So to do that, what you just need to do is click on either of these tools. So if I want to add a building, I'll click on area. Then I will click on this, any corner. Okay. Sorry. Just click on any corner. Then what really? Then I would map. We're using remote sensing again. We've learned about visual. What is it called? Visual interpretation, where we are using our eyes basically to identify features and map them. So yeah, basically you're mapping what you can see. You can zoom in further if you'd like. This is just for showing purposes. Then I can, once you are done with it, you can tag it as a building. Because at this point, as I'm mapping it, I'm not sure if it's a hospital or a church. So you'll just map it generally as a building. Then we usually square all the features that we add in terms of buildings. And there's a shortcut for that, which is just pressing the letter Q. And that's it. That would be an edit that you've done to OpenStreetMap. So for every edit that you make, you will see this number would increase as you add, as you make those changes. Similarly, for a line, you would do the same thing. Since the roads are mapped here, I would not do it. But that's just how to add a feature. So say, for example, if I'm familiar with the area and I know, okay, I've mapped this as a building, I could add a point of interest. And maybe if it's a commercial building and I know a business that's here, then I would, okay, I've turned off the points layer, so that's why it's not allowing me to tag it. So maybe if it's a commercial building that has a number of businesses, I could add a point, and since I know what this area is, then I could add that point, the name of that business here. So I would look for a tag that works best for me. So if it's a restaurant, if it's a supermarket, and all that, yeah, the easiest way would be just to search here. So maybe, okay, maybe it's an organization. So maybe it's an NGO. If it's an NGO, I could tag it as an NGO, then I could add the name and everything. Yeah, so in case you're wondering, maybe why not just name the building instead? Yeah, it's because at times, even in Nairobi and a lot of cities, you'd find a building has multiple businesses. When I was a student in Juja, I lived in a building which was where the ground floor was a hospital, and the top floors were residential houses. So if I named the entire building as a hospital, then I would be sort of lying, because it's only the first floor that's a hospital. And okay, even maybe for a lot of universities, I guess, usually find that on the ground floor of the building, there are like restaurants and shops. Then the top floors are like residential houses. So how you tag that is maybe name the building the name of that building, and then add points of interest for the businesses, and add another point of interest for the building as a residential or an apartment. So yeah, so that's basically how you could add a building, how you would add a road. To add a road, you just let me see if there's a path. This looks like a parking lot, so I would not draw it as a road, but I think I saw something on the side here. No. a lot of roads are usually well mapped, so there's not so much that can be done for that. But maybe something that you can do with roads is sort of like modifying them to be better. So you can usually click on a feature and like move the nodes around. Yeah, so it's basically like digitizing, which I think most of us have done. Maybe also this would be an error if this building had been mapped, because as you can see, this building crosses a road. So what you would do is sort of move the nodes around till it's at the correct places. Yeah, so I don't know. A lot of people usually see this as being strenuous and complex, but I guess with the thought of you creating open data at the back of your mind, then it sort of makes sense. But also if you're people like me who love digitizing, then works for you as well. Yeah, so that's how you would make edits on OpenStreetMap, by adding features, by adding buildings, roads, and such things. You can also add things like swimming pools, because at this place, in this area, you can see this is a swimming pool. I think this is also a swimming pool. Yeah, so you can always also add such things. So you just use the area tool and tag it as a swimming pool. So you can literally map anything on SM. So anything that you can see. Okay, why am I not allowed land use features? Oh, so I had also turned off land use layers. And I just turned them off because my laptop is a bit slow. Yeah. So then I would square it, and you can also move things if things are not, in the right places. Yeah, so basically that's how to edit on OpenStreetMap. It's basically digitizing. That's just what it is. Yeah, but as I shared with you, you do not have to always digitize if it's not your thing. You can always modify, you can fix errors, you can do community work, and all that. So once you make your edits, you can save them. So to save an edit, we usually use something called a change set comment. It will pop up when you click on the save option. And a change set comment is just a comment where you're describing the work that you've done. So you can see here it shows some of the things that, some of the change set comments that I've used recently, but it can be anything like added a few buildings. Then we usually use this sort of hashtags. They're just things that you can use to track contribution. So maybe as the same Kenya community would like to see how much contribution is done to the platform through the Kenya community. There's also a tag for YouthMappers that we use to see how many changes have been made by YouthMappers around the world. So these hashtags are just for tagging, for tracking purposes on the number of contributions and what people are doing. Yeah, it can really be anything that you can use. Yeah, then if you're a beginner and you'd like, you're 50-50 about your edits, you can always click on, if you'd like someone to review, then they can share feedback with you. Yeah, then you upload, and that would be a change or an update that you've done made to OpenStreetMap. Yeah, so that's how OSM is. So people from anywhere in the world do this by just adding data, digitizing and adding all this information. I guess at this point, I would also share that maybe if you are an organization and you have like lots of data that's already available on your end, especially in terms of points of interest and such things, there's also like an import process. It's a bit complex, but it's necessary. Just to ensure that data that you're adding is of good quality, and also what else? What you're adding does not it's not in conflict with what's already on the map. So if you are an organization, or if you have some data on your end that's already open data, you can always have or if you have data that you're looking to make open, you can always just search for OSM imports and have a read about that. There's a process to do that, but it's complex in terms of informing everyone in terms of the local community and getting feedback on it. But like the actual process of importing is not as hard. Yeah, so that's the basic process of contributing to OSM. If you've just created an account with us today, if you go to, once you create an account, you're usually prompted to do a walkthrough. I would encourage you to use that walkthrough and see the details on how to, it will basically show you what I've just shown, like how to digitize a road, how to digitize a building, the shortcuts that you can use and all that. So this is the main tool that I had shown. It's called the ID editor. I'll also just quickly show you the other tool called JOSAM. It's the J stands for JavaScript. So it's, oh, not JavaScript, I'm sorry, Java. So it's like Java-based OSM. It's just a desktop tool that allows you to edit OpenStreetMap. So I don't know if I opened it. I don't want to open two instances. Yeah, it's opening. So as it opens, okay, let's just wait for it. Yeah, so as it opens, as I shared, there are two ways. Actually, very few people edit OpenStreetMap directly, because there are many limitations to it, to doing this directly. Because number one, I'm not sure what someone somewhere is editing. We might be editing the same area. We might just be editing the same area, editing the same things, adding the same things or probably someone deleting what I just added. So because of that, it's usually encouraged that we use tasking managers that I'm just going to share with you right now. So just a quick overview of JOSM. So how JOSM works is that it's a desktop-based editor. So how it works is that you download data for an area. Sort of looks like the other GUIs that you use, like ArcGIS and QGIS, sort of. So you download, and the advantage of using JOSM over ID editor, especially if you're going to map a huge area, because ID editor you have to be online 24/7. But with JOSM, what you can do is you can download the data and do it offline. So you only need to be online at the point of downloading data. So and yeah, you just zoom to an area that you want. So I think I am in Moya. So basically what you do is you would just pull like a general area, then download that data. I guess this is also, oh, okay, this was the area was too big, so I'm zooming further. Okay, let's try Juja. So so yeah, you can go and download JOSM. The instructions on how to download for different operating systems. If you're using Windows, or yeah, so to download the data for you, and then okay, so that is how you load. It sort of looks like AutoCAD. Yeah, and what you'll do next is you'll load your imagery. So at the top you can see there is an imagery option. So you can load it as well. And then another thing is if you have your own imagery, you can always load it as well. So, but there are so many other options. So if you click on imagery, then imagery preferences, so many options that you can use. It's even Landsat, although you wouldn't use Landsat for digitizing. Yeah, but you can use anything. And if you have your own, you can always add it as well. Yeah, because what appears here at the top is just your preferences, what you wanted. So you can load Maxa. So a lot of people use Maxa because it's the most recent on ISM. And then once you're here, then there are a number of tools on adding features, editing features on the side. So the good thing now with JOSM is that at this point, you don't have to be online. So if you have limited data, JOSM is a very good option to use. Or maybe if you're going to map for longer periods of time, you can use JOSM. And it's also very lightweight. So yeah, you can always use it. So maybe also just for showing purposes, what you would do is, if I want to add a building, so okay, another advantage with JOSM is that is this building tool, so you do not have to like click on all the tiny nodes for a building. So you only need to click 2 nodes. I don't know if it's faster. A lot of people find it to be faster, and then I guess it also squares for you, and then okay, it's you draw it faster, it squares it for you, it tags it for you as a building. So it sort of skips all those other steps that you would have done using the editor. Yeah, so you can also like edit that way. To edit features, you use the select tool and just move things around. It really, it looks like the ArcGIS, QGIS, and such platforms that we usually now use for normal digitizing. Yeah, so same thing, so it's the same process. So then to upload, there's an upload button. But obviously, if you're a first-time user, then there are more steps that one would need to take in terms of signing up, and so that all your edits go to OpenStreetMap at the end of the day. So there's also an upload process. So I will not go through that just because of time. Okay, I will exit. Yeah, so in as much as you can edit on OSM that way, as I was sharing, a lot of errors can come up. It's possible for me to delete what you've just mapped without knowing. So we usually use tasking managers. The main one that exists is the hot tasking manager. So so I'll just go to, you can just Google hot tasking manager or go to tasks.osm.org. Don't worry, I'll try to compile all the links and share everything with us after this. And what these tasking managers just do is that for a mapping project, you're able to sort of create tiny tasks for people to map. So that if I'm mapping these tiny tasks, no one else is mapping that task at the same particular time for this project in particular. So that's just what these tasking managers do. At the end of the day, all your edits still go directly to OSM. They're just, as from the name, they're just a platform to create tasks. So create projects and tasks. So as you can see, it just gives more information about the platform, what it is, organizations that are using it. Yeah, and then you can also have a look at mapping projects that are available where data is being created on OpenStreetMap. So you can see there's a lot of projects around the world. So you can filter to projects in Kenya. You can do that. Sort, not sort by, I guess, more filters. Yeah, so you can filter by a campaign. So maybe I think there's like COVID-19 campaigns, or maybe if you want to support organizations who need map data for COVID-19, you can always do that. Maybe you want to support work for a particular organization here, you can do that. I think there is a thing. I'll just check. Yeah. Then you can make search. Then you will see the main projects that are here at the moment. Yeah. Then you could sort by country. There are a number of projects by people like American Red Cross. I saw last week they were hiring for GIS analyst position. I don't know if people saw it. Yeah, but you can see, then you can like zoom to the map. Yeah, so yeah, yeah, but you can filter to whatever that you want to. But if you like, just a lot of people just come to map and support any project, so you can always just have a look and support a project that you want. So the same way you created an account on OSM, you also need to sign up. But because all edits are going to OSM, you'll create an account, but you'll grant access to OpenStreetMap. So you can use the same process to sign up on a tasking manager. Then yeah, I'm just logging in because I already had an account. Then yeah, once you're in, you're able to see you'll see more things. You can see your contributions. There's also like a profile where you can add more information about yourself, I guess, and like things that you're interested in mapping in. So if it's for water and sanitation and all that, for disaster response, if it's just the same communities and such, yeah, language, all those things. Then it also shows how much mapping you've done. So number of chain sets when you joined. Yeah. Then let's see, if you click on to see your contributions, you can see how active you've been. You can see last year I didn't map at all on OpenStreetMap. Yeah, but you can see the number of buildings you've mapped, the number of roads, like how much the length of roads you've mapped around the world, points of interest you've added, such things. So it's just basically a summary of projects you've contributed to. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like something that you'd add maybe to a job that requires by some experience. A lot of mapping jobs in humanitarian usually want that. Then you, in case you're following through, you'll notice you might not have the manage functionality, but because it's only usually available for what you call project managers, or just basically people who create mapping projects for different people or different organizations on this platform. Yeah, and to contribute to a project. So if you see and find a project that you would love to contribute to, or at times maybe, yeah, you saw maybe some mapping is being done for a particular project, then you are usually able to create that account. And I guess maybe at this point it would be great to show some of the projects that we've done in Kenya in the past and like close them. Yeah, once a project is done, we usually archive them because mapping has already been done. So as I was sharing with you earlier, we did a project for the UN Habitat where we helped them to map Dadaab and Kakuma, the two refugee camps in northern Kenya. So because it was a COVID-19 related project, they needed data to be able to assess how much support they can offer to both refugee camps. As we all know that COVID-19 sort of trained a lot of communities economically, but especially a lot of communities that were already, we would call them living in hardship areas, things even got harder. So they needed data to be able to assess how best they can support those communities. And the only way they could do that is if they knew how big that community is, how many people are there, and all that, and sort of like match that with population data. Yeah, so when you open a project, it looks like this. It just shows where the project is, more information about that project, and then who's coordinating the project, who created it. Then usually also sort of limit at times who can map a particular project. So, for example, these projects in Dadaab and Kakuma, these are areas that had already been mapped on OSM. So a lot of work was just involving editing and adding what's missing. So because of that, we limited that to advanced and intermediate mappers, because with beginner mappers, it should have been unclear how to modify features. So at times there usually is such limitations. And then there's usually like a comment section about where people can ask questions. So say, for example, when we noticed that there are features in an area, like features had been mapped, but on the satellite imagery, those features are not there. Then we went to look at it and noticed that it's actually because those two camps, some camps were closed within those camps as well. So justifying deleting those features because they were permanently closed. Then you'd see a summary of everyone who's contributing. You can see for this project, we had more than 320 contributors for the project. Then you can see like more statistics for the project. Then you can download the LI here and all those things. Then, okay, let's just look at the statistics. So I don't know, I guess this would be essential to be the organization that's working on the task. So it would show like the number of tasks that were mapped. It would show the map edits that have been created because of that project. How long that the contributors who were contributing. So you can see that there were 318 mappers, but there were 38 validators. And as I was sharing with you, there's a huge gap in terms of people who validate. So you can always have a look and learn how to validate, because it's talent that's needed or skill that's needed. So these zeros, it just shows that the tasks were fully mapped. So zero mapping is needed, zero validation is needed. Yeah, and all that. So, but for a contributor, what's important for you once you get here, you want to map. So you would look at the description, what the project is for, and you can see, as I just shared, it was for COVID-19 support in terms of resource distribution. And then the data that they needed were buildings and roads alone. Then as a contributor, what you would do is click on contribute. Then now you can now see the differences between mapping on directly on OSM and using a tasking manager. Number one, you are contributing to a specific project. Number two is that you'll get more instructions. So you'll get instructions on the imagery to use, on how to map in case you are very new and you just have the basics. So it will that such information will be shared, and also like things like shortcuts. Like for example, when you draw a building, if you need to square it, you press Q. If you're mapping a rural area and you draw a hat, you can draw like a triangle and make it circular by pressing O. So you get all that information that you would have to get separately if you are mapping directly. So here it does not show the map because I've selected a project that has been fully mapped, so it even tells me to select another project. So let me just open a random project here, just for showing purposes. So click on, I think this is in Uganda. Then I'll click on contribute. So okay, it's for a specific group. Let me open ours. So I'll just open we were doing a project. We recently did a training program, and we were working on a project in updating data in South Sea. So I could open that. South Sea. Okay. It's called okay. And first of all, oh, seriously, and okay. Okay, so it was here. And not Kenya should be there. Yeah, but also the time when you are contributing to a project, you usually get a code, like the code for that project. So you wouldn't have to search like me. So we'll just open it from here. So most of the time you'll get like a project number that you can search directly. Yeah, so we didn't have a lot of instructions because our sessions were in person with the trainees, and we didn't want anyone else to contribute if they're not part of the training program. And then, yeah, so as I was sharing, so you would click on contribute opportunity, then you're able to choose the editor. As I shared with you, you can use ID editor, which is web-based, or you can use JOSA, which is desktop-based. So your choice, whichever tool you prefer. But if you are a beginner, you can use the ID editor. It's the easier one to use. But I guess you can always challenge yourself and use JOSA. I don't think it's difficult, but It's usually just referred to as being more advanced. Yeah, so once you click on a project and you click on map a task, then it loaded the ID, chosen the ID editor. So it will just load the task for you. And the sharing, once it loads the task for you, it will like give you some sort of boundary, meaning that you can only map features within this boundary. So that's what sorts out that issue of me mapping and someone directly deleting what I've mapped, or probably me deleting what someone has been mapping. For example, when with this South Sea project, it's one of the areas that was mapped a little bit earlier when OSM was starting out, and there was not of the imagery. So there's usually a lot of issues in terms of how the buildings look like. For example, you can see there's a lot of buildings were mapped. Most of them have not been squared. There's a lot of moving that needs to be done. So there's a lot of editing that basically needs to be done in the area. So even for this project in particular, you find out it's limited to intermediate and advanced mappers, just because there's more mapping versus adding new features. Yeah, but basically that's the process. It's so from here, similarly to what I had shown on OSM, directly on OSM, because let's say, for example, if I was to map these features, I'll just edit this. So another thing is that it's always, I guess, advised to modify features versus delete them. It's okay to delete, but they say a feature already takes space in the servers. So, and deleting does not mean that space becomes free. And since OSM is an open source project, limited resources and all that, so it's usually advised, if maybe you see a feature was wrongly mapped, you can always modify instead of deleting. So the process would be making an edit if it's modifying, if it's moving things, if it's what else? If it's adding features, do that, and then since you're using a tasking manager, only do things within the boundary, and then same process, saving the project. So what would be different most of the time is that the change-set comment in this case would auto-load. So you would just add what you added at the beginning of that change-set comment, and then uploading it, and then if I'll just upload because it's a change that I've made. So after uploading, then you would share if a task has been fully mapped or not fully mapped. So for my case, I can see that yes, I have made a change, but I have not fully mapped this task, and I'm not going to because of time, I guess. But maybe if I had more time, if I'm mapping on my free time, I would make all the necessary changes, and then I would click yes. But for now, I'll click no. And you can add a comment. It's not a must, but you can add a comment that you added a building. Then at times, if imagery is bad, so maybe if there's cloud cover and such things, you can always mark and share that maybe you are not able to basically map that area because imagery was bad. So just say added a building, then I'll click no that the task was not fully mapped, and that will be it. So yeah, that's basically the process of mapping using a tasking manager. And there are several instances of the tasking manager. So this is the hot tasking manager. It's I guess the first one and the main one, but because also all these things are open source, you're able to create an instance of it. So say, for example, there's one that's mostly used by educators, so schools and teachers and such things. It's called Teach OSM. So it's like tasks.teachOSM. It looks exactly the same. So, but it's just a different instance that you can use. Just the same way when Pauline was presenting and we were sharing the Africa Geoportal, the way organizations are able to sort of create instances of the Africa Geoportal. Same way, so you can always, one can create their own instance of the hot tasking manager. So for this, it's used mostly by universities and lecturers. So say, for example, for YouthMappers, you'd find a lot of YouthMappers projects on this instance instead. And also even maybe as students clubs. So say, for example, if you are looking to create your own projects, then it would be advisable to use this instead of the hot tasking manager. So for the hot tasking manager, then it's best used would be for humanitarian projects. So projects that are in urgent need of data and such. There's another one, I think, if I'll be able to, it's called OSM app. It's for projects that are related to environmental, like monitoring and such things. So if you, if you have a project that is focused on such topics, you can also create a project here. So this is an example of a project that was done to monitor a rainforest. So as we may know, there's a lot of issues in terms of a lot of deforestation happening, and all these stories, and how this is contributing to climate change. So you can also monitor that, because you are able to, in as much as you can do remote sensing or analyze satellite imagery and see land use changes, there are also ways that you can do that on OpenStreetMap as well. So yeah, there's so many tasking managers. I'm not sure even myself if I know all of them. I guess the last one that I can share about is called Rapid. So as I was sharing earlier, at the moment, how we are contributing to OSM, like the digitizing process, we're using visual, like we're basically mapping what you can see. It can be a lot, it can be very tedious. It can be a lot of work in some ways. And in some cases, you may just find it's a community where people are not interested in digitizing. Something that I've experienced with a lot of people in Kenya. It's just something that people are not a fan of. So there's a lot of work that's currently ongoing on using artificial intelligence to help create data that can then just be verified into OpenStreetMap. So there's a lot of work. I guess the work started with Facebook. You can have a look at this site. It's mapwith.ai. And they basically did an auto detection process for roads. So using satellite imagery, created a data set on roads, but data that has not been created like by digitizing, but by automatically using machine learning techniques. Then now how that comes into OSM, instead of a mapper going to the platform and drawing a road from scratch, then what they would only need to do is to verify if a road that was auto-detected is actually a road, and then tag it. And also maybe at times if there were some wrong auto-detections, then they're also able to say that this is actually not a road. And how that would be helpful then to Facebook is that it would help them maybe I'm sharing this is like it's not complete. And if you're familiar with machine learning, and even from the name, all these models are still learning. So that is data that can be sent back to the model and to improve the results for maybe iterative processes that will be done. So there's also, because of that, there's also like a different tasking manager for it, because the mapping process is totally different. But it is the same thing. So the tasking manager, if you're interested in using artificial intelligence and machine learning for mapping, is called Rapid. So yeah, but the main place to start is through this link, mapwith.ai. Then you'll get more information about the project. Maybe if you're interested in learning more about it, you could have a look at it. Oh, and actually another cool thing is you can download this data. You can download this AI generated data and use it for your own use. Maybe if you are doing your own research on using on AI and machine learning in GIS and remote sensing, you could download this data and actually use it for what's usually the name, like for checking the quality of maybe your own model. So you do not have to use OSM directly. You can also use this data. And the good thing is, I'm not sure if they did for the entire of Kenya, but they did for Nairobi. So it's also data that's not available for all the cities around the world. Yeah, but you can just come to this site and have a look at what is available and what's not available. I'm trying to, there's usually this GitHub link that has more information. Yeah. So yeah, you can come here and have a look at it, especially if you need the data. So maybe if you're doing some geo AI work and you need data to cross-check your work. I've talked for a lot, for I think for almost an hour now. Yeah, so yeah, as I've shared, I'll share all these links after this. So no worries. You don't have to, no pressure to sort of get everything right now. Yeah, then I guess I was showing the instance for Map with AI. Then I guess that will be it. So just to show how it looks like. It's a bit different because it's the whole tasking manager was updated recently. So most of the tasking managers are still being updated. So I can see there's something for Kericho, but the issue with this map with AI tasks, a lot of people are excited about it. So they're usually fully mapped for almost all these areas. So I'm sure I click for this Kericho and you can see there are no tasks there, but you can have a look at the map with AI. It's a different mapping process, but it's almost the same. Yeah, I think in summary that's it, because I have shared how to contribute to the map, how to yeah, if you're getting started, how to create an account, how to download the data. I've only shown for the hot export tool and another platform called Overpass. Then I've also shared about the tasking managers. Yeah, I think that's a good summary on OSM. So I'll stop there. I'm not sure if there are any questions. Okay. I can see there's. Okay, yeah, okay. I can see there's a question from Mary. So I'm just going to try and wrap it up because of time. You can also see a bunch of people left. So you see the first question is by Mary. She was asking what do you do with redundant data? So say a place name shared as a point and also as a polygon. I would suggest to leave them like so. Okay, it depends with how it's been added. Because the way I was sharing, the way maybe you'd see there's a building that's like several things, or even a building that has several businesses. So I would name the building with that name, but I would maybe also, like I would name the building as say Amani Apartments, but then I would also add a point to share that, I would also add a point as a point of interest as Amani Apartments as a residential building on such a thing. Then I would add all the other things. So I would leave it at that, like that, and then, because anyway, at the end of the day, some people might be accessing this data differently. So someone might be interested in downloading points of interest and not download buildings. So yeah, I would leave them as so. And then another good thing with adding place names as points of interest, it's because when you're using applications that are based on OSM, what is usually searched is usually the point of interest and not the things like buildings. So say, for example, if you, I don't know, if you use Bolt, you might have noticed recently it has it does not search directly to Google Maps. I don't know if you noticed. So nowadays it usually searches on a platform called GeoNames that uses OSM. So at first it will load the first result that's OSM based. Then if it's not OSM based, then it's when it will search on Google. But and I guess that's useful for in terms of costs, because Google nowadays is super expensive. I guess from last year, not last year, the other year, they increased their costs. So a lot of organizations that are using map-based products are looking for ways to reduce such costs. So yeah, I would say to leave both in that way, if maybe it's a point and a building, just because of those reasons. But maybe if it's the same kind of data type, so if it's 2 points, then you can delete one. Then Jacob asked what kind of imagery I was using. So I would assume that was at the point where I was just showing a quick demo on how to add a feature. I was using Maxa Premium. So yeah, if you're using either JOSM or ID Editor, yeah, you should be able to load Maxa on your or select it, use it. It's mostly used for because it's the most recent in terms of what's the usually the different types of satellite imagery resolutions. It's in terms of time, it's the most updated. It's what has been recently captured. A lot of projects would prefer that. Yeah, but as I shared, you can add whichever source that you prefer. Then those are the only questions, unless I'm missing anything.
Okay, the question here. So
Sorry?
The main challenge with this kind of you can there's an echo. Okay.
You are on mute.
I'm saying places that resources constrained, such as very remote areas, often they are not mapped due to lack of infrastructure and the infrastructures and the capacity. So, for example, OSM, are there any efforts to map or to the collection of data in such areas?
So yeah, as I was sharing, like OSM mainly works through communities. So like it's not like say something like Google Maps, who maybe, although nowadays I don't see them doing that, but I remember when I was a student, there was like a project where like we went to map on Google Maps, and we literally went to the CBD. Like I think at that point, that's when like Google had come to Africa. So we literally went to the CBD and we like mapped points of interest. These are places that are not mapped. We did like, I guess a lot of data that people use nowadays on Google Maps in the CBD, we did it through that program. So, but because SM is like the work is done through communities, basically communities will map what they want. Same way to organizations. Organizations will map what they want. So, but as a person who needs data, so say maybe if I'm working in somewhere like Vihiga County and I need data on buildings and roads and such things, what I would do is I would leverage the fact that OSM is community-based. Then I would create a project and ask for support from these communities. Just the same way for the projects that we did with the UN Habitat last year, when they needed data, they reached out to OSM Kenya, then we created the project. And then as OSM Kenya, we contributed to the project, but also pulled in the global community. So if you need the data, communities are usually very available to help out if you need. Another good example is, I think, since you're a youth mapper, if you need also data for your project, you can always create a project through YouthMappers. Last week we were doing some projects in Nigeria, 2 very rural communities in Nigeria, and this data was not even for a Nigerian. It was someone from the Arizona State University who was doing a project in the area, and the places were not mapped, so we supported them in that manner. So I would say there are no like efforts like from OSM or OSMF to map some areas, but you can always seek support and leverage the fact that OSM is community-based to get this data. Yeah, I hope that answers.
Yeah, you've answered that question. Then there is another question. The areas that have maybe the network coverage or internet is bit low, it's not there entirely. So is it possible to capture data there or to collect data there, and then you upload once you have internet connection? Let's say you're doing it in a very remote area in Turkana, then you come and upload in Nairobi because there is internet. Possible?
Yeah, so yeah, as I was sharing with you, there's an import process into OSM. It's just that people avoid it because of the complexities and the things that you need to do. Like you need to create a wiki page, you need to inform the local OSM community in that area. You need to post in mailing lists that are available for feedback from the community. So, and at times it depends with the project at hand and what you're adding to the map. So, and also who you are. So at times it can be controversial and very very complex, but there's an import process that you can use. Personally, I've imported data into OSM. So yeah, you can always map data if you're using apps like Kobo Toolbox, ODK, and then since the data is already in a GX format, you can, especially for points of interest, it's very easy to import points of interest into OSM. Yeah, so it's possible. There's a process to do it. You just need to document it, but through JOSM you can upload data. Because you saw the way JOSM looks like. It's like JS software, so you can bring in data and then you remember the upload option for uploading your edits. So it's like uploading your edits, but then yeah, the extra step that you just need to do is before you actually do the import, you have to document it, and there are a number of steps that you need to do in terms of just informing people about that. So yeah, it's very possible. And then there's also another platform called Field Papers. You can just search for it and have a look at it. It also allows you to sort of print sections of OpenStreetMap on paper. And then if you are on ground, you can like note them down, and then you can also collect data on your, if it's a handheld GPS or a mobile application, and like note that down and then come back, maybe if you need an area that has internet access, and then actually start making those edits now one by one. So yeah, it's possible.
Thank you for that. You've answered my question. So the next step, you are supposed to have a mapathon. Laura, I don't know if you have combined your presentation in the mapping.
Yeah, I have sort of combined it, and also I guess because it's Saturday and people need to rest, I thought maybe it's something that we can do separately for people who are interested. Yeah, so we will not have a marathon because we're only having 28 minutes and it's a bit short. It's not enough time to actually have a marathon. Yeah, but yeah, I guess it's at this point that I would share that, yeah, a main issue that people, or a main challenge that people experience with OSM is on data quality. Yeah, but as I was sharing it, like there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But if you look at what has been contributed recently, data is of very, very, very good quality. A lot of data that has issues. It's mainly data that was contributed a number of years ago. So yeah, and there are like already a lot of work that's being done to sort of make those rectifications and improve the entire data set in general. So yeah, I mean, challenge is usually data quality, but there are a number of things that one can do to improve that data. I would say it's, for me, it's usually, or same as a data is usually a first point in terms of getting data. So say, for example, you are an intern at an organization, so sharing, I don't know if it's the same experience for everyone, but a lot of people usually, or a lot of Kenyans have been, do not like mapping on SM just because of the whole digitizing thing. I don't know what has, anyway, like, I don't know. I feel like digitizing has been sort of made or said to be something that is not to be done. So, or it's not something, an ideal thing to do. But I also guess that it can be very redundant and boring at times. So, as an intern or anyone working in an organization and you need data and you have been asked to digitize, you can start with OSM by like downloading the data on OSM and cross-checking the area that you're mapping what's available, and then see if it's of good quality, and then only just digitizing what's missing. That could save you a lot of time. But also maybe as an organization, you can integrate OSM into your data creation process. So as you, yeah, instead of mapping directly on QGIS or on ArcGIS, where you can load your imagery and like start doing the buildings, you can just do it directly on OSM and then download the data. Or you can use something like JOSM, and then yeah, you can use something like JOSM, have your data on your local machine and upload the edits to OSM. So yeah, the main thing is it's just that there's no an assumption that people make is that there's one way of contributing to OSM, which is not the case. As I've also shared, if maybe mapping is not maybe a thing, or maybe you are already doing it in different ways as part of your work. Yeah, maybe you're digitizing at work from 8 to 5. There are other things that you can do in terms of community, in terms of software development, in terms of writing, advocacy, and such things. So yeah, I guess for me that's usually something that I heavily push for. If you're interested in OSM, it's not a must that you load an editor every day and edit them up. Yeah, and then I guess lastly, just similarly to the GIS space, like a lot of things I'd say are happening every day. A lot of work is being done, so you can always just be on the loop and see what you can do. For example, this mapping with AI thing, it's a fairly new thing. A lot of research is being done. So you can always just be on the loop and see how you can contribute and how this can support you in or your work in one way or another. Yeah, then I guess, I don't know, if you love big tech, like big tech companies like Amazon, Facebook, Esri. I guess Esri is a big tech company in GIS. Even Apple, Apple or Apple. the people who make the iPhones and the Macs, or the people who sell them. They're also doing a lot of work in OSM, especially in Africa. There's also Bolt, as I shared. Now Bolt, their search, their app search, fast searches on using geonames, which is OSM based. Then uses Google as the second option. So there's also a lot of work going into that, just because eventually, ideally, if everything is mapped in OSM, then why would I switch to Google Maps if I have a free option? Oh, and then a cool thing to share is usually that a lot of people use Snapchat. If you use Snapchat, the map on Snapchat is OSM. So, yeah, it's OSM through Mapbox. Yeah, so if you're into web mapping and building web applications, you can also have a look at Mapbox. It allows you to create maps that are based on OSM. Yeah, because as you saw, the styling on OSM is pretty basic, but using Mapbox, you can like work on the styling and such things. So yeah, Godwin, that's it. Unless there are any other questions.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Laura, for the overview of OSM and also the demonstration on how to use OSM to create data in OSM and to map in OSM. So in our schedule, I think we're coming to the end of our event today, our activities. I'd like first to thank the present that I've shared on different things. For example, the geoportal, Digital Africa, also regional center, and also OpenStreetMaps. These are things that we'll be using in the future. We are GS professionals. That means we need data. Some of us will be developers, will be working for Digital Africa to maybe develop those data cubes, or just borrowing from their models to create better and better things. Let me also thank you, the attendants, the attendees who have just taken their time to be with us today to create open data. We thank you, we appreciate you being here, and we say thank you very much. So it was organized by YouthMappers, the chapters in different universities in Kenya. So if you would like to affiliate to yourself, or maybe to talk to Laura, or you need something to the YouthMappers, maybe a training, and maybe the activities of YouthMappers and in your local institution, you can talk to Laura or you can talk to me, so that we can organize going forward on how we can collaborate based on that. So thank you very much. We appreciate you being here, and we hope to see you in future other YouthMappers events. I think we have come to the end of our event today, and people now can leave at the own way. Okay, thank you. Thank you.